From the pen of Lazarus Boodle, world-renowned singer, entertainer, philanthropist, and kazoo enthusiast. The Royal Rumble, a pro wrestling match invented by renowned gay dude Pat Patterson, where a new guy comes every 2 minutes. They eventually started doing a version with women, but Pat was retired by then, so no one really objected to it. Anyway, 30 dudes, grappling, struggling, coming, going. Until one man stands alone, sweaty, exhausted. His hopes and dreams seemingly fulfilled. But in 2005, something different happened. In 2005, there were 2 men standing at the end, sweaty and exhausted, but this time, very confused. Which is just how Pat liked them. Anyway, and in all this sweaty confusion, somebody blew something. And all of this craziness ends with rapist, turned billionaire rapist, Vince McMahon in a wheelchair. What a time to be alive. It's the 2005 Royal Rumble. This week, nothing good.
Thank you for yet another awe-inspiring intro, Matt. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I expected the comings and goings. I didn't expect the rapist Vince in a wheelchair.
I mean, it's all true.
It is currently very
there are some things that are happening.
The things that have been missed since we've last been on the air, ladies and gentlemen.
So let's pump the brakes for a second. First of all, yes, welcome to the season premiere. Was it season 3 at this point?
Season 3.
It is season 3.
Season 3 of Nothing
Still here.
Good. Hope you guys, everybody listening, had a wonderful holiday, safe, everything went as well as possible, and you got all the gifts and love and accolades and blah, blah, blah you could ever want in the world. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing? It's been a hot-ass minute. What's new?
I don't know. What is new?
I'm fucking asking you. What's new?
Just a lot of itchiness, you know? I didn't have the itchiness really before we went on holiday break.
You should get that checked.
I have it now, you know? In different places, too. It just kind of turns up where you least expect it.
So what you're saying is your lack of recording has created some sort of allergic reaction, almost as if not recording and spending time with your friends in front of the microphone has created some sort of... Like you're genetically against not spending time with us, to the point where you're busting out in hives.
Yes.
I was going to say you weren't with us, so you went somewhere else and got an STD.
The microphones looked a little shady, guys.
It's the difference between Jeff and I right there.
I'm not going to lie. You know, they told me everything was going to be okay. They lied. They lied. But yeah, man, things are good. Things are good. A lot of happenings in the world of things we like to cover, especially this time of year.
I do have news.
Ooh.
I do. It's not the most exciting news in the world, but something is new since we have not recorded since like fucking October of last year.
Halloween.
It was Halloween.
That was our last episode.
A hot-ass minute ago.
The holidays hit us hard.
Yeah.
Dear sweet listeners.
So about 3 weeks after that, as you guys know, and I may have covered in the show previously, I don't remember, my wife had 2 cats. One we had to put down. She had mouth cancer. It was a whole thing last summer. So, at the behest of my wife, I went and got a new cat. We have a new addition to the home. His name is Cooper. He's a little shit.
Congratulations.
Yes, he's super fucking adorable. He's like a short hair, gray and black tabby with black stripes, like a tiger stripes. It's really, really, really cute cat, but he's a year old. You know what that means? He likes to fuck with everything. And he gonna learn eventually. We're still in that go and learn phase.
Yeah, he's still figuring that out.
He like hops up on something, looks me dead in the eyes, and goes, knocking it right over.
This is twice already in the podcast we've talked about pussy, and neither one of them has really been involved actual pussy.
Yeah.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, Jones, living with you as I had all those years, and I was reminiscing about that recently, about the 5 years that we spent as roommates. A fantastic 5 years.
I'd say so.
Herb Jones is the best roommate you could possibly ask for.
Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never really pegged you as a cat guy.
I love cats.
I know. But, you know, we lived with one.
It's different. He wasn't my cat.
And he was diabolical.
He was not my cat.
Oh, he was a total dick.
Yes.
And he just tried to fuck up everything.
Yep.
But, like, going through that experience, not saying that you were a dog guy, but I find it fascinating how much of a cat guy you've become.
Yeah.
Like, I totally get you being the fish guy.
Yep.
Right? Herb Jones, for those of you that may or may not know, has a whole YouTube channel dedicated to taking care of your fish tanks.
This has not been updated in like 8 years.
You know what?
But it's there.
Neither has Bob Ross's painting show, but that doesn't mean people still don't go and watch it.
People still comment on some of my videos randomly.
Yeah.
Like, brother, I'm not responding.
Yeah, The Joy of Painting hasn't had any new episodes in like 15 years, but that shit has its own channel on like Pluto TV or some shit.
Yes, it does.
I was at a bachelor party. This is the craziest, wildest fucking thing you guys are going to hear on this show this week. Oh my God, guys. Wait till you hear this shit.
All right.
So I was at a bachelor party, and we were in West Virginia. Wild and wonderful. Went to a casino, played some games, drank some booze. And when I went to bed that night, I turned on the TV, because I generally like to have the TV on when I go to sleep. And it's a cabin. They don't have cable or anything. It's just, log into your whatever streaming service you want to log into, or go find like something on air, just the over the air channels. And I came across the Bob Ross channel. And that motherfucker helped me have one of the best night's sleep I've ever had in my life. Just happy little paintings, happy little trees, happy little, there's no such thing as accidents, there's no such thing as mistakes, just happy little accidents. He fucking said that while I was conscious before I passed the fuck out.
It sounds like a wild bachelor party.
It was off the chains, guys.
It sounds like it.
It was.
Wow.
Well,
nothing related whatsoever to the itching.
Or the cat conversation.
Are you sure? Maybe
Yeah.
you got it in West Virginia.
Surprisingly, I would like to say there were a few shady places that there was a strip club. We did not go to it. Because, where we were in West Virginia, not saying that it would have been or would not have been, an entertaining establishment, but I mean, I think this place that we were looking at maybe going to, put the Tennyson, might as well have been like a strip club in Miami. Made the Tennyson look like that.
Wow.
And for
Says a lot.
anybody that knows the Tennyson from the South Hills of Pittsburgh, it's generally discussed as the strip club where strippers go to die, basically. You got a lot of new talent. You got a lot of talent that's just kind of... It's basically like Bull Durham of strip clubs. There's one Crash Davis down there and a few people that might make it to the bigs, but everybody's just trying to get their cup of coffee in the strip business.
Yeah, it's like the meatloaf in the fridge that it's not quite good enough to throw out, but not too bad that you have to throw it out.
Calling the Tennyson meatloaf paints an entire different picture of what the Tennyson actually is in a completely different light that I might now not be able to unthink of. But there were 5 reviews on this place. 4 of them were 5 stars. One of them was 1 star. And the 1-star review basically said, those 5-star reviews are bullshit. They're all people that work there. This is the worst fucking strip club you've ever seen in your life. It went on to tear the women down, which I didn't really think that was really necessary, But it was just really funny to kind of read the reviews, because there's just that one that tore the place down. And I joked about it as like, what, strip club atmosphere and everything, 1 star. Strip club buffet, 3 stars.
So there's a little good in it.
Yeah, there wasn't actually anything about the strip club buffet in there. I just kind of made that up. But I felt like that would have been pretty fun. It's like, come for the chicken wings, stay for
the flabby ass?
Flapping something.
Well, there's a few things probably flapping.
There's
likely,
probably several, yeah.
depending on age.
I hope one of the strippers had like the superfluous third nipple. Just 2 on one side, 1 on the other.
It's the unfortunate part, Dave. You'll never know.
I'm okay with it.
You had the opportunity.
I'm okay with it.
You didn't take it. There's a brass ring attached to a nipple, and you didn't take it.
You know what? I have all the nipples I need in my life. You know,
Are you sure?
Waiting for me back home. Whether I'm sure or not, that's the answer I'm going to give you.
I was going to say, because
because
it only sounds like you have 2, so that's not that many to be waiting for to come home, sir. You need like a set of like 8.
Listen, in case...
Or are you counting the dog as well?
What the fuck?
Just
You
ask
said
him.
nipples. You said as if there was
The
several
audience,
sets of them.
the audience wants to know what you're talking
Inquiring
about.
minds
Yeah.
would like to know, how many nipples do you have waiting for you at home?
I mean, there's probably 8. You know, if I'm doing the math. I've never, like, counted how many nipples Maggie has. It's fucking weird.
I wonder, the people who are questioning who Maggie is right now who don't know is the funniest part of that entire
Maggie is
scene.
the dog.
You didn't
It's
have
not
to
a
tell him. We
person.
could have just left that out there. We could have... Just like they don't know who Lazarus Boodle is. One day they might.
They will eventually.
They will eventually.
Those nipples are waiting for you.
Yeah.
That's real unfortunate.
Oh, they are. They really are. So just in case it came down to it, I think I'm going to save it for another episode. I did ask Lazarus Boodle. This introduction did come from the pen of Lazarus Boodle. It absolutely did. I didn't make that up. I reached out to Lazarus. Lazarus is a real person, ladies and gentlemen. You can find Lazarus on socials. He's working on his debut album. And the man is going to make sensual love to your ear holes with a kazoo. That's not made up. That's a real thing. So I reached out to Lazarus. He's a fan of the show. He kind of reached out to us while we were on hiatus and everything. And we had some conversations. He said, Dave, Mac, if I can call you Mac. I know guys here call me Mac, but, I don't know Lazarus that well.
Right.
But he's like, I love the show. If you're doing a Rumble episode, like the 2005 Rumble, I got an intro for you. So I'm like, yeah, man, send it over. Maybe I'll read it on the air. I thought it was fantastic. I asked Lazarus if he could provide me with a bio in case, just a couple of lines to kind of let the people know. You can't see this, but I'm just going to hold it up to Jones and to Jeff and just kind of show you. This is the couple of lines that Lazarus...
It's 3 pages.
Hold on, wait, go back up. I'm wearing glasses. Mac here is several feet from me, but you know what I see on his phone? The first thing that comes as he's scrolling past,
first
I
word
see
you make
cum
out.
rag.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that has to do with a fucking bio, but I'm interested.
I'm just gonna read. I'm just gonna read just these couple of lines here. So those cum rags started fucking right there on the floor of that Chicago Jazz Club, and they orgasmed together so much that it became the Chicago Jizz Club.
Oh boy!
So much frothy cum, in fact, that it sent a shockwave across the entire universe. A cum beacon had been lit. And I just think of the beacons of Gondor being lit in Lord of the Rings, except in this case, it's like a geyser of cum, right? A cum beacon. And in that moment, interdimensional aliens answered. That's just
a fraction.
That is half a paragraph of a 3-page bio that Lazarus Boodle provided me about just, how he came about. What does he want his fans to know?
Literally and figuratively, or both?
I think both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah. I got, where you going, buddy? The taxi driver asked. Fuck you, said the alien. There's going to be a whole, Master Fap theater, I think, just on the origin of Lazarus Boodle. So.
Somehow, every so often, I hear something that is like a combination of fucking words that I never thought would be together in a full-on coherent sentence, but somehow cum rags fucking and orgasming together. I've never in my life.
You did not have that on your bingo
strung
card.
These words together.
Yeah.
Take a step back, though, for a second, Jones.
I'm trying.
Just think about how lucky those cum rags are, because usually that kind of chemistry takes years to develop, and they just had it right there on the floor of that jazz club. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes one rag comes too early, the other rag comes too late. One says, I'm about to come, wait, and the other one says, no, you hurry up. I mean, happens all the time.
So welcome to season 3.
Yeah.
We've been here for 14 minutes, and we are way off the fucking rails already.
So
my absolute favorite thing to do on this podcast is to find out in that first segment how far off the rails I can take it before you guys have to find a way to bring it back.
Pretty goddamn far, Dave.
Yeah.
So somehow that came about because we were talking about what we did on break. You got some sort of disease, you got a cat. Nothing crazy happened in my house. We made it through the holidays. I hit another milestone birthday.
That's right.
42.
42 years young.
Too.
Yep. Still acting like a 20-year-old, but
It's the way it should be.
that's how it goes. So, but we're really excited to be back and recording. It's been far too long. And like we mentioned, there's a lot of shit that's happened in the world of pop culture, the world of wrestling, the
Even just our world.
ecosystems of things that we love.
You know, I want to throw something out there about our show that I'm a little upset about. And this, I love when I say that and I see the look on Jones's face, like, oh fuck, where's this gonna go?
Where is this going?
This is actually going to be kind of like a regular thing.
Okay.
Believe it or not. No, so over the last couple of years and right around the end of our season 2, we were again fortunate enough to be asked to do a panel at the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo,
Right.
at the Monroeville Convention Center.
Right.
And love doing it. It's a blast. It's great being
good
able to
time.
be in front of some existing fans that come out to see the show and make a few new ones along the way and whatnot. And then just over like a week or two ago, we find out that the Monroeville Convention Center is going to become a Hobby Lobby.
This is fucking
Yep.
hilarious,
The
actually.
fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's no
They
bueno
had,
for us.
yeah, they had all their shows booked up like through the end of the year, and they basically told them to go fuck themselves.
Including the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo, right?
Go find a new
Yeah.
spot.
So we're not sure how that's going to play out this year, but
Definitely paying close attention to it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's not like Pittsburgh has a lot of convention centers. There's kind of 2, right?
Yep.
yeah.
Unless you want to go ahead and like book, you know, the conference room at a Holiday Inn up by the airport.
No
which
one wants to do
nobody
that.
wants to do that. There's not a ton of options
Yeah,
for
there's
that.
not any big venue space that can hold. a lot
Well,
of
there's
people.
there's the convention center downtown, but that's too big. That's way too big for some of the things that maybe Steel City Con is growing enough that you could do a part of that room.
Well, I think they charge out the ass for that place. That's why.
Well, they
That's
do.
why they haven't.
Well, yeah, they
moved
do.
in there.
You know, when I had the chance of going to meet the Hobbits, another sentence I didn't know I was going to be saying here today, but you know, there it is.
Yep.
I couldn't believe how many people there were there, and they were. I mean, I felt like I was in like a slaughterhouse, being kind of put through until, you know, I got to the end of the line. That's kind of how they're pushing people through to like meet the celebrities
Yeah.
and get the pictures taken and stuff like that. They literally started you inside the building, then you went outside the building, then you went in, and they kind of funneled you through like these corridors with these like, you know, tarps and stuff on the sides, and you literally were like packed in a single file line, and then you like showed up in the room. It's like, oh, hey, Hobbits, take your picture, 20 seconds, go. Right? So, it would benefit from a larger space, but, you know, here we are. So I hope that situation gets taken care of. I know some people were very surprised in that community that they were just doing this. I don't think that you can tell a business they can't do what they want to do. You know, the people that own that space are just like, we don't want to fucking deal with this anymore. So they're like, we're going to give most of it to Hobby Lobby. So yeah, I hope it gets worked out, and I look forward to, you know, figuring out where we're going to be for the next expo. So
Yeah. So let's.
most innocent thing I'm going to say today, Jones.
It's very heartfelt, and we feel
I
it.
think you might be right.
Yeah.
I think you might be right.
Just wait until we get to the Heidenreich match.
So, speaking of professional wrestling, let's talk about the Royal Rumble 2005. So, you know I'd seen this show before one good time, like the whole way through, but everybody knows why this show is famous. The infamous double quad blow and blown spot for the end of the Rumble. We'll get there.
Yep.
Let's start with what I consider really back in the day when WWE did great intro packages. Man, I fucking felt that one. It was a good intro to the show. And it just, as always, the WWE, WWF, they're like pre and post production teams are just fucking second to none. There is like, I don't really know if there's
Yeah, there's
anything
nothing
better
like
in
it.
the
Yeah.
entertainment space.
Yeah.
I mean, that's considering all sports. I think the WWE has like, they do it better than anybody does,
Without a doubt.
which is crazy. It's professional wrestling.
And let me kind of go piggyback off of that. So
Can you stop piggybacking me? It's a whole new season.
do you want me to piggy front you?
Just look me in the eye.
It's fair?
Okay.
Yeah.
What does piggy fronting entail?
You
Just
listen. Don't want to
you know
know.
what?
I do want to know. That's why I asked.
Listen there, man.
The listeners want to know.
Listen, Jeff, if you have to ask, buddy, you can't afford it.
He just winked at me.
I did. So what level of Peacock do you guys have?
There's more than one?
What's your Peacock? What's it look like?
I didn't know there was another version of it.
If you're asking if there were ads,
Yes.
so mine had ads on the front end, and then there were ads like directly halfway
No
through the
ads
show.
for me.
That was
So
it.
you pay more than $5.99?
I don't pay shit.
Well, fuck. Do you have
If you must know.
Wait, do you have Comcast?
No.
Well, how do you not pay for? Oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You already know how.
All right. Yeah, I do. All right. So this is why.
Illegal. No.
I mean, a little bit.
Is it really though?
I mean,
They haven't changed that rule
as
yet.
long as they,
Yet.
no, yet they everybody will at some point when they figure out they can't turn a profit on these fucking streaming services. But that's a whole different conversation to begin with. When I watched this year's Rumble, the 2024 Rumble, the version of Peacock that I have is the $5.99 a month, and I have the ads. They don't show you the video packages. In order to see the video packages, you have to pay for the next service. The commercial, for real, the commercial comes when the video package is about to be shown. They're like, for our,
I never heard of that.
That's bullshit.
I mean, you've not noticed?
No.
So you did see the video packages when I did not see it.
Yeah.
Every time that it went to go for a video package. Now, did you watch it live? Or did you watch it? I watched the Rumble on Monday when it happened on Saturday. Because we were out doing stuff on Saturday. So I didn't watch it when I came home, but when I watched it on Monday, every time that they were about to go to do the video package before the next match, they're like, for our Peacock, like ultra premium subscribers, you'll get to see the video package, and then I had a commercial.
So maybe it's because if you watch it live, they are not going to insert those ads in those moments, I'm assuming?
I don't know.
Because if you watched it live, you didn't have that issue, right?
I didn't see any ads. No.
So that maybe it's a live viewing.
It's very possible that
would make the most sense out of an illogical decision to make. That makes the most sense.
Yeah, but when I watched it on the playback, I did not see any of the video packages ahead of the matches. They said, for those of you on our blah, blah, blah service, you're going to see the video package. The rest of you...
Go fuck yourself.
It was.
Yeah,
and I thought to myself...
Too bad for you.
And I thought to myself, what a way to stick it to the people that, want to watch your programming but don't want to spend $60 a month to do it. Which we did back in the past when we would have 10 people come over to the house to watch it.
Right.
But I just thought that was interesting because Netflix, my version of Netflix, just got downgraded. I have T-Mobile. They pay for my Netflix. And price of Netflix went up. T-Mobile's like, you know what? We don't like you that much. We're not going to pay for that. So they downgraded my service, and now I have commercials. And there's something about watching something on Netflix. I was watching a movie. It had 7 fucking commercials in the movie. It's like I was watching on TBS. It was so annoying. But again, I digress. So I just want to know if you guys experienced that or not, because
I did not.
it definitely happened. Now, I didn't necessarily have that problem with this Rumble, but I also don't remember the video packages, so maybe I didn't get a chance to see it.
There were a couple, if I recall correctly. There weren't too many. There was the intro video package.
Did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there might have been one for the heavyweight title matches.
There was for both of the championship matches.
And I'm sure there was something for the Rumble. There's always something for the Rumble. That was it, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't see a video package for the Rumble.
I feel like there always is.
Yeah.
There's always something.
Well, because I watched it because I wanted to refresh myself before we came here to do this, because we've been trying to get these episodes recorded for a hot minute here recently, everybody, and due to various scheduling conflicts, we had to work around some things going on in our lives. So I went and watched the last 2 matches again before coming over here and the Rumble, and I do not remember there being a video package between.
Maybe you were distracted by a drunk JBL saying holla holla.
I was not distracted by that. Watching JBL get champagne sprayed in his face, and JBL not realizing that when champagne is blasted in your face, it burns the fuck out of your eyes, and then watching him have to try to do what he was supposed to do during that promo while blinded by champagne.
As they're continuing to pour it over his head.
As they're just continuing, and you just see his eyes like, oh my fucking God, this is awful. That's why I always think, professional baseball players are pussies, because when they celebrate after like a playoff win, yeah, you heard me, fucking looking at you, Shohei Ohtani. Yeah, you got all the money in the world, but You're not going to fucking get champagne blasted in your face like a real man. They all wear like ski goggles and shit, so they don't like hurt their eyes. But like hockey players just sit there like they're putting fucking champagne like eyedroppers in their eyes, like they're just immune to it. But anyway,
Yes.
so I was just kind of curious if you guys have that or not with the 2024 Rumble, because like I didn't see any of the video packages, and I felt, again, because that's one of the best things WWF does, WWE, whatever the fuck they're called now, TKO Sports Holdings, fuck you, Rock. Sorry, I'm still salty over his promo on SmackDown on Friday.
He did a good job.
He did a great fucking job.
Listen,
Heel Rock is fucking fire.
I feel like we should, if we can get through this show in a reasonable amount of time, we could save some time on the back end to talk about some shit that's happening in terms of the current storyline. But in order to do that,
let's
get away from the peacock and let's get on the intro match.
Is your peacock feathered or is it bald?
My peacock, shut the fuck up, Dave. Let's get to the fucking match.
We're talking about the 2005 18th annual Royal Rumble, live from Fresno, California, from the Save Mart Center. 12,000 screaming fans.
Can we appreciate that the WWE will never do a premiere pay-per-view at the fucking Save Mart Center in Fresno, California ever again?
Why?
Because SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania will never be at a regular arena for 13,000 fans ever again. It's never going to be that way.
Things have got to get bad for that to happen.
Yeah. Stock price has got to go way down. Mm-hmm. But I was my first thing. That was my second note that I have here. Fresno will never see a Royal Rumble again. Just like Pittsburgh will never see a Royal Rumble again. But that's also our fault.
Yeah. Oh, it'll never not be our fault.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, every time it still to this day bothers me. I don't like split commentary teams. I think it's fucking. I understand the point. You got your Raw, you got your SmackDown, but I still don't fucking.
Yeah,
like
I think at this point in time, as a wrestling fan, the brand split was like they leaned too heavy in on it. Like it was just annoying.
The brand wars were big at this point in time.
They were. It was very new for us. It was still pretty fresh. I feel like there should not... That's a conversation for another time, but I still feel like there shouldn't be a brand extension anymore, brand split anymore. But the problem is there's too many damn talent. Where are they going to go? I guess AEW or some other international promotion. So they kind of have to keep that talent.
Right.
But man, I'm kind of over having two World Heavyweight Champions.
Ring of Honor, TNA.
Well, Ring of Honor is AEW. But yes, TNA, yeah, well,
it's interesting because like I forgot how heavy they leaned into that until like I actually have several notes in here just about the constant smack talk between the announcers from especially during the Rumble when you had Taz and you had JR. But like you just came from the WCW WWF Monday Night Wars. And then you had the Invasion. So there was kind of this built-in thought process within, I guess, the executives at WWE that you needed to have some type of a conflict between shows.
Like Civil War.
You needed to have a Civil War to drive viewership. And I think, and from some of the things that I've been watching recently, I saw a great thing about Paul Heyman, where he was the head writer of SmackDown. And internally, within the company, that was a very real competition. SmackDown, when Paul Heyman was in charge of it, was very much driven to, kind of stay within the lines of what WWE wanted, but also to kind of push certain talent and certain storylines in different directions because they wanted to, look down on Raw. They wanted to look down on the flagship show. And, the idea of SmackDown being the little brother, they didn't want to be. Right. And there's a lot that kind of went into that. So it was kind of fascinating to kind of revisit that a little bit and see how that was just still being pushed.
Well, there was a period, for quite a while where SmackDown under Paul Heyman was a better show than Raw.
It was.
It was just better wrestling matches, good wrestling matches.
Better stories.
Better storylines. A real lack of Triple H on TV at the time, which was fantastic for those of us who were watching a lot back then. It was too much Hunter.
Isn't it amazing that void, that vacuum when Rock and Stone Cold left?
It was filled by one guy.
That Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, just, you know, 2 pecs and 2 quads as well. You know when you played like some of those like WWE like ultra stylized video games where the wrestlers look superhuman with their muscles? I always picture Triple H like that in real life. He's basically 2 pecs and 2 quads, and there's nothing else. He's 4 muscles on stilts.
That's a way to put it.
And his match did not change my mind about that either.
No, but you know what match was fantastic? The opening match. We're talking Edge versus the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. And I will tell you something. I don't know about you guys. I've spent so much time with the Rated R Superstar that I forgot that there was a heel Edge before he was the Rated R Superstar, and I was here for it.
Yeah,
I was so I'm like, holy fucking shit! It's not Rated R. He's just a
heel,
unproven.
He's just
heel.
an asshole. Yeah,
like he's not there yet.
I was a big fan of early heel Edge,
and I forgot that there was like, because it's always so cool when you look back on it now, like big time superstars who have an amazing legacy, but you look back and say, okay, that's when they were in their formative face years or their formative heel years where they weren't really established yet. The Rocket wasn't really attached to them yet, but the Office was behind them. You could see that they were given these opportunities. Edge, and to think about, I forgot about this version of him. There's a testament to his career, right? Because he was a fantastic heel then too. He has a face. He has that face. Where, like, you can be a babyface for sure, but he has the face of a heel. He has the face of a bad boy. You want to punch him square in the jaw, that smirk that he gets.
I am so happy that Edge was in that Percy Jackson show. Because he played Ares. Did you guys see that show at all?
No.
3 things. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about?
It's on
what
Disney
is Percy
Plus.
Jackson again?
Right.
It's on Disney. It's a show on Disney Plus.
It's a show on Disney Plus. Was a couple of movies in the
feel like I've heard of the
2010s.
movies,
It's about the Olympians.
That's why I didn't watch it.
Gods and shit.
Yeah. The first movie was I enjoyed it. It's kind of a YA series and similar to like Harry Potter kind of a deal, but they're all like demigods and stuff, and they go to like a demigod school and they fuck shit up. But in the new show on Disney Plus, they redid the movies were moderately successful. The first one was okay. The second and third, I think they only did 2, right? Did they do a third one? I don't know.
Joe's like, I'm not a fucking
I don't
expert.
fucking know.
But
I didn't see any of them.
and I
didn't see the show either.
I
at least know what it is.
Yeah. But they did a show on Disney Plus, and Edge is in it.
Okay.
And he plays Ares, the god of war.
Okay.
This is recent. Like, it just came out.
It just came out in December. It came out right after Christmas. And I have always felt that Edge had, like, if they ever made a Castlevania movie...
This was coming.
I've said it to you all the time.
It's true.
If you ever were going to do a Castlevania movie, if you're ever going to have Simon, right? I thought that would be Edge. Like, he looks like he's straight out of, like, a gothic comic book.
Kind of like he could be, like, in a group of other like-minded people, maybe with a vampire leading them.
Yes.
A brood, if you will.
It's almost if somebody looked at him 20 years ago and thought the same fucking thing and said, you know what? I got just the faction for you, bud.
But of all the wrestlers that have gone to Hollywood, Edge was always one that I felt should have gone to Hollywood. And I'm happy that he's kind of getting that exposure now. Even I think it's maybe a little bit, past due.
Right.
Because he has that look to him. And he has that look here also.
Can he act?
I didn't watch the show. I just kind of saw like a clip that he was in, and I imagine he can if he can do the shit he's doing on WWE. Same thing about Rock. Like, Rock going to Hollywood to me would never be like well, could he do it or not? Like, the shit that you do in a ring, during those years was way harder than anything a fucking actor's gonna have to do on set for anything. So, if you're going to sit there and make shit up like The Rock did on a night in and night out basis and entertain 13,000 fans every night and make people fucking laugh and feel shit all off the fucking cuff, you can be the fucking Scorpion King. That's nothing. But it's interesting seeing Edge kind of weeding his way through this because there's a lot of great talent in the WWE at this point. There's a lot of established talent. There's a lot of up and coming talent, and he's just kind of, climbing the ranks. He's just weeding his way through all of this until he got his opportunity.
And it's fantastic to see. This is a really interesting year for the future of the WWE, because you figure from 1997 until 2003, really, the company was dominated by Steve Austin, The Rock, your Mick Foley's, your Undertakers, your Hunter Hearst Helmsleys, a little bit of Shawn Michaels there for a couple of years. And now, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, that void is now there. In 2005, it shows, which is why this was such an important year for the future, which we'll get to. But it is no more apparent than the opening match, right? A grizzled veteran like Shawn Michaels taking on... Granted, at this point, Edge is not a rookie by any means. He is absolutely a very seasoned competitor, but in a more of a big-time main event role. They got to have a lot of faith in you to put you in the opening match with Shawn Michaels at the fucking Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And this match did not disappoint.
Yeah, and the storyline there was Shawn Michaels was screwing Edge out of the spotlight.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be the next guy. I thought the match was super well executed, super entertaining. The spear on the outside of the ring, I fucking love that. Mm-hmm. All in all, really solid match. I mean, Shawn Michaels was starting to show his age, but he still could fucking compete.
Oh yeah, Shawn Michaels. I mean, the only part of Shawn Michaels that can't compete anymore is his fucking hair. Beyond that,
no, his hair gave up.
It's losing.
That's the other thing that can't compete. That shit tapped.
I don't know if you could surgically sew a cowboy hat to your head, but I think he would try if he had to do a match.
That shit's glued on.
Just can't. No, you got to stitch that shit.
A great line.
You can't risk for that to fall off and that hairline.
With
or lack thereof pop up.
I can't remember what move it was. Maybe it was a clover leaf or something. Edge had Michaels, but Michaels got to the rope and Lawler says he was trying to tap, but the rope just happened to be in the way.
Yeah,
fucking love that line. I just fucking miss Jerry Lawler's commentary. Anyhow, I was feeling the chops in this match. I love the Hurricane Rana turn to sit down powerbomb.
Yeah,
all the reverses was great.
Fucking fantastic. And again, Edge showed up and had a great match with a guy who, granted, it's hard to have a bad match with, but I think he kept up with Shawn Michaels significantly.
And he mocked him. He was playing heel hard.
Oh, man,
he was mocking him the whole time.
And like a great heel, he stole the victory.
Yeah.
As he should steal the fucking victory. By the skin of his fucking teeth. Because theoretically, he shouldn't be able to beat Shawn Michaels. Because it's Shawn fucking Michaels. But yeah, great opener. It set the stage for the rest of the show, I think.
Yeah. And one thing that's interesting, because this never happens now, is both of these guys are also in the Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you don't see that at all.
It's very rare now. Which was a really cool thing, and I kind of remember noting that to myself, like, oh, is this...
Because I was like, well, Edge is in the Final Four, and I was like, well, Edge is in the opening match, and I was like, oh, Angle's wrestling too. Like, half of these guys are in the Rumble.
Well, when your roster is not as bloated as it is now, you kind of... You know what I mean? Like, you can get away with that now. Like, but then it's like, you needed all the star power you could get. Because this is
everyone worth a damn. You gotta put
this is before we got really conditioned to expect crazy surprise entrance. This is before that.
Oh, we got crazy surprise entrance. Just not in a good way.
Well, you know what I mean.
Oh, I do.
No, all the entrants were expected in this one.
But there's no Diesel coming back or things
like
that.
No, I know that. But what I mean is that, there are at least 4 or 5 wrestlers that were in this Rumble match that I did not even remember they existed in like the WWE history. I think like... Well, I've got some jokes I'm going to save for later.
Okay.
On to that match. Yeah. I don't want to kind of blow my load too quickly here.
Speaking of funning, the Flair and Eddie backstage segment was fucking fantastic.
Yep. So in this particular Royal Rumble, to get your entrant number, Tori Wilson and Christy Hemme were in the back shaking a bingo roller, and the superstars had to come back one at a time or two at a time and get their numbers. And so Flair and Guerrero were the first two. And Eddie stole Flair's number 30.
Shit. Yeah. I'm like, God damn it, I love it, man.
And then he stole his wallet too.
Because he did,
as it turns out. Lie, cheat, and steal.
And it's like Eddie died this year.
Yeah.
Which was, I clicked, I'm like, what year is this again? I'm like, fuck, did Eddie die in 2005? Yes, he fucking
Because he
did.
wrestled in Mania, right? And then that was his last
That was,
pay-per-view, I think.
possibly.
I think so.
Yeah, it's
Such a fucking bummer.
Too
soon.
A lot of feelings about Chris Benoit, especially at this time, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, it was classic Eddie. It's kind of interesting that when you had the at this stage here, a lot of wrestlers from the WCW ECW invasion, are not a lot of people really hung around after all that. There's not a lot of, I always look at, I know they kind of came in at a different point in time, but I always kind of link Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and, Dean Malenko and some of those guys when they came over, all kind of like with that. But they're still here. But a lot of the other talent, didn't really stick around for a couple of years
Very
afterwards.
few of them really resonated with and that's a conversation we could have. I mean, shit. It has always kind of been this idea that if Vince didn't create you, he ain't gonna push you that hard.
Right.
And there's a whole host of WCW talent that came over. Granted, they were not the Goldbergs, they were not the Hogans or the Halls or the Nashes, or really the people that we wanted to fucking see. It was like Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Hare, which was cool. No shade.
Was it though?
But it wasn't like in the small pond that was WCW towards the end. Jindrak and O'Hare were a big deal as a tag team. I liked them they were badasses as a tag team. But when you go from that stage to the big leagues, effectively, really, they did not stand out. We already had Randy Orton. I didn't need two more Randy Ortons, and he was a better Randy Orton than they were. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
There was just like this Vince did not, Buff didn't last. Like, think about who even lasted. Booker T.
Mm-hmm. Not many.
John Laurinaitis. Well, that's a conversation of the time too.
He married the Bella's mom.
Who else fucking lasted?
Did you guys know that shit?
Oh yeah.
I didn't fucking know that shit
All that
until
shit that was
all this
going
shit
on,
happened.
She was sick with fucking cancer, by the way.
Of course she was.
Because he's a shitty person.
Of course he's a fucking terrible person.
But yeah, there aren't many, like Taz, Stevie Richards hung around for a while, but I feel like was he before the invasion? Was he after the invasion? He was before the invasion.
Yeah, it was before.
He was before. Either way, not many people made it.
Yeah.
And the ones who did very well for themselves, thankfully, except for Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah. But speaking of not making it, that's a great segue into the Snitsky and Heidenreich promo, which is one of the weirdest things.
Oh my god. So we got a casket match coming up here. Undertaker versus Heidenreich. And, Cole talking about Undertaker taking out his bitter rival, Heidenreich. Because, when you look back on the video packages of the Undertaker's great matches over the year, we all remember
Heidenreich was always
remember the 20 minutes they dedicated to that Heidenreich feud, right? Oh my god.
So
Heidenreich was a Paul Heyman guy.
Was he?
He had him in his corner for a long time.
I thought he was a 1940s, East Berlin guy or West Berlin, whichever one it was.
All we know is he's afraid of caskets.
That's apparently the thing.
So this promo, this backstage segment, is one of the strangest things I've ever watched.
Did you feel the tension?
I thought some sort of tension.
I thought they were gonna make out. I really did. I was waiting for it.
Heidenreich's sitting there, just it's a shot of his face, and he's like, looks like he's fucking straining.
Yeah, he is sweating.
I thought he was taking
crazy.
a shit at first because he looked like he was dropping a serious ass deuce, but he wasn't. He was mauling. I don't know what he was fucking doing, but he was like contemplating caskets. And fucking, who the fuck came up to him? Snitsky, another useless fucking talent. No offense, but fuck. I mean, Jesus Christ. And they were like in each other's faces. And I messaged you motherfuckers about this. I'm watching this, and I'm like, this is some weird ass erotic tension going on. If you closed your eyes and just listened to that entire segment,
completely different thing you're
something else
watching.
is going on.
There's a reason they kept the camera above the waist. That's all I'm saying.
Like, none of that segment made any sense. Poor fucking Undertaker God bless him. He's a company man if there ever fucking was one. This motherfucker even had a WrestleMania match with fucking, was it Nathan Jones, was it? Nathan Jones? Or like WrestleMania 17? With the fucking Big Show and somebody else? Fucking useless shit. Fucking useless. What the fuck did I just watch? That was an entire hot mess. Who produced this shit? Who wrote this shit? Is what I wrote down. Because what in the who thought
that was a good idea.
And then I remember, in retrospect, hindsight being 2020, who's in charge? And I guarantee you, he fucking loved that shit. Well, you know who I'm talking
Vince
about.
McMahon.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, now you know who I'm talking about.
I don't want to just say his name.
I thought you would catch that.
Well,
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was like a Voldemort thing. Like you can't because
He
of
who
what he's,
shall not
there's
be
gonna
named.
come
because
a
of what he's
time-
done. We can't say his name anymore.
Well, I mean, fuck, the WWE TV can't. But we're getting there.
Yeah, the sexual tension, like I just wanted to see Heidenreich just kind of wrap his hands into like Snitsky's back hair and just like fucking pull on it, you know, like their pigtails kind of a deal, you know, just kind of let him feel that. I like you. I like you too.
That was so weird.
And then I'm just waiting for smooch.
He's
just
like-
to kind of happen.
He's like, I have a plan. I like plans.
They're just breathing heavy at each other.
This is because
That was
we
the-
were not allowed to see what was going on below
Like,
the
what
waist.
the fuck?
There was some docking going on. If
Jesus
ever,
Christ.
if ever, just
There's a term for it, okay?
well, shit. Yeah.
I know that now. Oh, god damn it. Anyhow, the match itself, which wasn't even a terrible match. It just was what it was. For 13 minutes and 20 seconds, we had to endure this.
I was so bored during this match. I'm thrilled when the match starts because like the Druids come out. I always love when the Druids come out for Undertaker, right? And you know, guys, you know I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, right?
I didn't.
Lies. All lies.
Yeah.
You know, in the Fellowship of the Ring, like when they're Mines of Moria, and Gandalf gets to the point where there are like 3 doors, and he's not sure exactly which door to choose. He's like, I have no memory of this place. And they sit there for a while. That's how I felt about seeing Heidenreich in this match. I have no memory of this man.
There's a reason why.
Yeah, Heidenreich looks like what happens when a bunch of steroids stand on top of each other's shoulders and wears a trench coat while trying to impersonate a human. You guys got a couple minutes for some Heidenreich jokes? Because that's all I did during this
We
match.
don't have a choice.
Well, let's go for it.
Yeah.
You don't.
Buckle up, bitches.
You know when you're sick and like you're having trouble sleeping, it's like 3:30 in the morning and a Bosley commercial comes on for like hair loss. And there's that after picture of that dude with your new hairline looks like, and he's just swimming in the pool, acting like he's this confident head of hair. That's Heidenreich now. Heidenreich looks like that guy who goes to the gym every day and films himself doing that one really heavy rep, and then drops the weights on the ground like loudly and yells like a madman. Then posts the video on his socials going, "Mondays, am I right?" Heidenreich probably smells like a MAGA hat.
No.
Right?
I don't know what that smells like, but probably musty.
Snitsky shows up in this match, like halfway through. Snitsky and Heidenreich definitely make love to one another listening to Rammstein after they've made their recent order from Blue Apron.
Oh, shit.
I'm convinced of that one. I'm convinced Heidenreich and Snitsky clap when the plane lands.
Okay, then.
Heidenreich puts Taker in a chokehold in this match. It's the worst choke I've ever seen. Taker sells this like a champ. Heidenreich is fucking awful at chokeholds. There's no joke here. Actually, no, wait. There is. The only thing Heidenreich can effectively choke is himself when he's masturbating with a stolen Motel 6 hotel towel that he kept after blowing the WWE's hair bleaching budget. Heidenreich probably bleaches his taint hair too, because, you know, character continuity is important.
But it's important.
Taker wins the casket match, putting Heidenreich into the casket. This is more than a match. It's a metaphor because that's where his career has been ever since. Thank God this match is over. Oh, fuck. No, wait, because the next match. And I'll just pause there.
So that was 1 minute and 47 seconds of Dave going off. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well played, sir.
You're welcome.
You put
I'm
a lot of thought into those joke rants you do. We appreciate you for it.
Yeah.
There's some matches I just can't go back to. And
But you didn't mention Kane.
You mean that's
It's gotta be.
that's
gotta
gotta be Kane.
It's gotta be.
I can't say anything bad about Kane.
I can.
Do you know what the
Fuck that guy.
what the storyline drama was around Kane while he was there?
I don't remember now.
Because there was a storyline where Lita was pregnant with
Yes.
Kane's baby,
It's
God.
not my fault.
and Snitsky dropped Kane onto Lita and apparently caused a miscarriage.
That's why Snitsky was like, "It's not my fault." That was part of his
Yeah.
music.
Oh,
It's not my fault. It wasn't my fault. Like,
I do have-
motherfucker.
I do have a note.
Yeah,
in
that
here.
happened.
I do have a note in here that just says it's Kane, but I got such in the Heidenreich mode that I had to just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
So Heidenreich would be it as I'm watching this, like, you know, he doesn't fit now in this day and age back in 2005, but he would have been a hell of a fucking monster heel to fed to Hogan in like 1986.
Yeah.
I could see Hogan like fucking tearing the shirt,
Yeah.
about to go
Yeah.
toe to toe this giant
Real
motherfucker.
real American hero.
He would be
against this
he would
asshole.
be one of the guys behind the Berlin Wall.
It would've been
That's the
perfect.
character they would have put him in.
Just a decade or two too late.
Now he just has really weird sexual tension with Snitsky
Well, somebody
and a
has
lot
to.
of bleached hair.
Um,
Like probably his anus too.
And, you know, hats off to The Undertaker for making Heidenreich look so fucking strong. He was selling for him pretty well.
for sure.
And I'm like, he did not have to do that. But he was trying. Marching orders, make him look good. And he tried. There's no saving that fucking disaster.
Nope.
No.
Same with fucking Snitsky. Like, there are people... Even I remember Heidenreich really well. For some reason, Snitsky is a guy I forget. I consistently forget exists until I see him and I go, "Who the fuck's that again?" Oh, that guy.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, that
I
one.
remember you.
Like Snitsky would have worked 10,000 years ago when people were dragging their knuckles on the ground.
That's a way to put it.
That's just
Yeah,
how
I suppose so.
it's
Yeah.
just, you know, if this Snitsky, if you're listening to this, you know, I'm sorry, but you probably understand. But also, if you're listening to this, Snitsky, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm sure he's doing
come on.
something somewhere. I
Yeah.
think he's working still.
Make sure to share that.
Pretty confident he's.
Yeah,
is.
go put on our socials what you're doing, and you know we'll talk about that in the next episode. Nicely, by the way, because we'll really appreciate it if you actually reach out. That'd be kind
Right?
of cool. Yeah,
So yeah, 13 minutes. I can't get back.
Yeah.
It was a fine Undertaker match. I say it every time, but man, there's just something magical about his entrance. There's just it is ever fucking green. It'll never not
Yeah.
be like fuck this motherfucker.
It's like awe and amazement every time.
Every fucking time. And of course, you know, you brought up Kane showing up, and this is pure fucking wrestling logic because a year prior, almost exactly a year fucking prior, Kane was leading up to a feud with his fucking brother that he tried to murder during the Survivor Series the previous fucking year after he buried his ass alive after fighting the fucking chairman of the fucking company. Undertaker comes back from the fucking dead, beats up his fucking brother, and a year later he's fucking saving him in a fucking casket match. Make it make sense. You can't. No one can. It makes no fucking sense.
I don't think the WWE has somebody backstage like trying to make sure the story continuity is worked
They
out.
do, though.
Yeah, there's
actually
people, that's their
fucking-
actual job.
And I'm just like, what
Like a
the
Lucasfilm
fuck?
where there's somebody's responsibility to sit there and make sure all the fucking storylines kind of play out. They have somebody in
There's-
wrestling that sits
somebody fucked it
backstage.
up.
There's no way that person remembers back more than 2 months. I'm sorry.
Like, the casket opens up, and it's Kane, and I go, wait, this is 2005. Weren't they just trying to kill each other a year ago?
Yep, not too long ago.
Okay, I mean, it's been a year, but fuck that. Anyhow.
Year's a long time in wrestling.
That's like 20 years in
It
wrestling.
is.
Um,
It's amazing, like in wrestling too. Like, you know, from 1 year to the next, things can change so much for any type of feud, or you know, guys that were feuding cannot be tag team partners, and you know, you think back like, oh well, that was, you know, 6 or 7 months ago, but it was a really long fucking time, really. You know, it doesn't age. Wrestling doesn't age the same that like other forms of entertainment ages. Not even sports. It's completely unique timeline. It exists outside of the space-time continuum. That's what they've created.
oh my god. So we got a backstage segment with, which I really appreciate, because much like I forget there's a point when Edge was an unproven heel, sometimes I forget that there was a point where John Cena was a fucking over babyface like crazy.
Yep.
And could do no fucking wrong
Dr. Thugonomics.
until they gave him the heavyweight title. And things changed. But before this, fuck, dude, it was money, man. He was so over. And it was just an entertaining little segment. Kind of was what it was, you know. It was a taste of things to come for the future. Literally, he is the future of the WWE
Yeah, I
for
mean,
a
if you think
long
about
time
how this
after
pay-per-view finishes and then what happens at Mania
Yep,
for
this was
both
his
of those
year.
guys, like, it's big. It's a big shift, and that's, you know, WrestleMania is his first of many titles. Championship titles.
So,
Speaking
We're
of
here.
championships,
we're here. Kurt Angle versus The Big Show versus arguably Dave's favorite wrestler of all time, John Bradshaw Layfield.
Mr. Mama Jawama himself, JB the fuck L.
Sorry, Mac.
Where does your hatred for JBL stem from?
That's because, man,
because you fester about it every time, but then you won't actually say what happened in your life that triggered you. What triggered you to go this way?
The thing that's amazing about JBL, the thing that's amazing about me and JBL, is that when he fucking comes out as a part of the Acolyte Protection Agency, the APA, I fucking love him. When he was just Bradshaw, I loved him. But something happened when that hair got fucking short and that cowboy hat went on and he started trading stocks that I just wanted to punch him in his fucking face.
I love, and it's the beauty of it because, and I'm not the first person to say this, and I will not be the last, but JBL is so good at being a heel. The character is so great. Good. We are all smart fans, right? We're smart marks, you could say. But sometimes, if you're lucky, listeners, listen the fuck up. If you watch enough wrestling, like we have, and you know it's predetermined, very athletic individuals putting their bodies on the line, night in, night out.
Playing a character.
300 plus days a fucking year. Yes. More than any other sport on the planet. Look, sometimes you get lucky. And there's one in a million superstar that comes across. It makes you feel like it's real again. And I swear to whatever the fuck you believe in, that is who JBL is for Dave.
Yeah.
He makes it real for you. And it's so fascinating to me. Because Dave, you will break shit down well, this is why this happened, and the office isn't backing this guy up, blah, blah, blah. You should see our fucking group text messages. Dave will go on analytical diatribes about this shit.
Well, you ask him about JBL, and he's just fuck that guy.
He becomes a fucking mark.
It triggers me in a way that I can't possibly...
He makes you fucking feel anger.
He does,
and that is such a testament to that character for you.
He clearly, I was at a buffet, and I was about to get the last hot dog, and he clearly cut in line and took it from me and ate it and said it was fucking delicious, and then threw the 2/3 of it away because he didn't really want it anymore. It's kind of that rage. He took 2 bites of the hot dog and said, you know what, I'm done, and just threw it away. And I was just sitting there with an empty plate. What the fuck, man? I don't know what it is because, JBL came around. That character came about in a time that I wasn't as active as a viewer of wrestling. And just when I saw him and the music, he's kind of like the Vince McMahon business guy.
Yes.
And maybe that's part of the reason why, maybe subconsciously, deep down, I know that because Vince McMahon is a total cunt, that this character JBL is a total cunt. Because he is. I have a note in here as this match goes on when Show was chopping JBL that I want to make that my new text tone.
Well, one of the beautiful parts about JBL, the character, is that a true heel, and I think that's a part of the reason why you hate him so much. So, from a good portion of your watching time, your most intense watching time, was during the Attitude Era. And a few years prior and maybe a year or two afterwards, right? That was your prime viewing time.
Right.
And during that time...
Till we were roommates.
Heels were charismatic in a different way. Heels were kind of funny and snarky. Heels... The DX changed all that. NWO changed all that. JBL, however, has no redeeming qualities. He's not a good-looking guy. He's not particularly charismatic in a way that is attractive to an audience member. He is arrogant in a way that is not I wish I was that arrogant. No. The Rock, the character of The Rock, has never not been a heel, technically.
Yeah.
But he's a good-looking guy. He's funny. He's funny. JBL's not funny. Nothing about that character is I can resonate with that. I can
there's zero relatable anything.
No one wants to be like that guy, right? And that's the beauty of the character. He's a shithead, a rich shithead.
Maybe it's because in my life I've known a few rich shitheads.
That could be it.
And I think maybe there's an underlying that is my outlet
It hits
of rage.
A little close to home.
It hits a little close to home in those cases. But I mean, it is an uncontrollable, blinding, irrational, blinding hatred. Because as I sit here and you're talking about JBL, I want to sit there and tell you that this character carried that title.
Yes.
And he's probably one of the most underrated, underappreciated heel champions that WWE may have ever had.
Agreed. Big time agreed.
And in terms of heel champions, probably one of the greatest heel champions ever. The clothesline from hell, still one of the fucking greatest brutal finishing moves you can have. And as I'm saying these words to you, trying to legitimately, as somebody who's talking on a podcast that people are listening to and maybe wanting to give somebody an informed opinion on something, I'm wanting to fucking throw up in my mouth as I'm saying it. Because I fucking hate him so goddamn much.
He's doing his job then.
Yeah.
So then there's the other participants, Kurt Angle and Big Show.
What a fucking great match, though.
12 minutes, man.
It's pretty good.
It was a good match.
Pretty good.
Just hard-hitting. Angle was thankfully the great kind of equalizer to speed things up. And god damn it, look, I kind of, it's like a little off topic, but like in his prime, Kurt Angle, I mean like 2002 Kurt Angle, and Braun Breaker with a little more seasoning will be the greatest tag team ever.
Yeah.
They would be an actual unbeatable force.
Yeah.
Talk about the world's greatest tag team, that would be them. And we will never get that. But you know what? When we have our fantasy bookings, just throwing that out there.
Could be.
Do me a favor and just, I'm going to make a little note here that when we get to the Rumble match, I want to bring up Braun Breaker.
Breaker.
I'm going to get to Braun Breaker here in just a minute. There's something about that character that I have. It's a fucking pebble in my shoe, man.
Does he remind you of the Steiners?
No. He does in a lot of great ways.
I hope so.
But it's a small nitpicking thing, but it's an interesting topic I want to get to when a particular entrant in this Rumble comes up. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
I want to make sure to mention that there is somebody in the audience that has a sign that basically says bullshit and has JBL's face on it, and I want to send that fucker a Christmas card. I want to add on my list.
Last little thing I want to add. JBL, he effectively steals this victory. But Can I just acknowledge, like, I know we watch these wrestlers on TV, and sometimes we get lucky we might be able to meet one in real life and get an autograph or something. Like, the only wrestler I've ever really met in my life was WWE wrestler, was Bobby Lashley. And that motherfucker is far larger human being than you think he
massive.
Is.
Yeah.
When you stand right in front of him and you get somebody to take a picture, and he's like 7 of you in width.
Yeah.
With that being said, JBL is a fucking huge person. He's not a small person.
No.
He's not even like a big guy. He's a super heavyweight. He's a big, tall dude, and the fucking Big Show was throwing him around like a fucking child. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself sometimes, like, I know he's helping him. Ideally, he's not sandbagging him. But the amount of strength that Paul White has to have
Yeah.
to just throw him like that is impressive.
I thought Show was the man carrying this match. I thought he was extremely good in this match. I thought this was the best match of the night up to this point, obviously. Even though the Edge Shawn Michaels match was really good. I just like the pacing of this match. It just had a little bit of a faster pace. It was solid all the way through. I thought it's always interesting, when like during the match, there's a low blow on Show. And I've always felt that if somebody's going to hit Show with a low blow, like, I feel like it should hurt their hand. Like, I feel like on certain wrestlers that are that large, that, like, if you try to, like, hit them in the balls, it should be like punching, like, a granite surface. It's just, you don't win that match. Like, and I feel like Andre the Giant, same thing. Like, he should have balls the size of Jeff's head, and no way should you speedbag that, right?
Right.
I feel like that's one of those things that, like, should be a hidden protective move with some guys. He goes for the low blow. Oh, it's Show. He hurt his hand, and Show's just standing there like fucking surprise.
Surprise! They're made of steel.
They're fucking they're actually coconuts.
But yeah, solid match, enjoyable. Thankfully, it didn't go terribly long, and it's so much. It's interesting. Like, I think I forget sometimes that Kurt Angle like left like within a year or two of this. He went to TNA and tried to legitimize them, and did a very good job of legitimizing TNA.
He did.
And it's so odd, like how much changed. Like we didn't get, and I think some of Kurt's best matches were in TNA, and it fucking sucks that they didn't happen in the WWE because I don't watch TNA. I just can't. I can't.
A lot of people don't.
I tried. It was like watching WCW 2.0, and I'm not all about that life.
Yeah, it's strange because, some of the matches he had with AJ Styles during that time were just, I mean, pardon the pun here, but fucking phenomenal.
Right.
And, some of the greatest matches you're going to have. And there were some guys that, because Angle was there, they went there, and they had some very legitimate things going on. But, again, they tried to WCW themselves, and they kind of did. You're talking about how large a human JBL is, and, like, watching Show kind of throw him around. Who's the largest human you've ever seen in person?
I have no idea.
So you remember we had Penguin tickets at Mellon Arena?
Yeah.
And like James Harrison was there. James Harrison's the biggest human I've ever seen. He was a linebacker. People who maybe don't pay attention to football or anything. He was a linebacker for the Steelers. He was literally two humans standing next to each other. He was that fucking big. And, when he did his role, at least in season 1 of Heels, he looked the part of a professional wrestler. But even like comparatively to some of these guys, like you said, Lashley, I mean, that dude, there's a lot of these guys. I mean, fucking Braun Breaker is a massively huge human being. I don't even know how you get that big, But
He's fucking fast.
Yeah. 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 The chemistry and the biology in that man does not make sense. But, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But a solid match all the way around. I really liked the interplay because these three wrestlers all have something different that they bring to the table. They're all different types of wrestlers, and it worked very well in this match.
Agreed. Which brings us to the next championship, World Heavyweight Championship match between Triple H and a very young babyface Randy Orton, freshly kicked out of the group on the outside looking in. A lot of backstage hoopla around,
Only like 7% of his body covered in tattoos at this stage.
Yeah, he looked different, right?
Yeah. Had a full head of hair. You could see his arms.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a thing, right?
I remember, I was such a fan of Randy Orton. I still am. I've never not been. And it's so interesting. I definitely did not, and I was one of those people back then who really was pushing him to be like the white meat babyface and to really stay there. But, thankfully, they didn't listen to fans like me because him turning heel was one of the best was one of the best decisions they made for his career. Because, even then, like, in 2005, he'd been a babyface for several months, and several months, and unfortunately, it just was not working. Because Randall Keith Orton does not have a sympathetic face. He doesn't carry himself in such a way that you should feel bad for him.
It's not the same when he's not the Viper.
Like he's just much like
the
Edge,
legend killer.
He has that face where like you kind of okay with bad things happening to him because it looks like he probably did something where he deserves it. I don't know if there's a greater natural born heel than Randy Orton. And the only reason people fucking cheer him now is because he's been around so long that he's just evergreen now. You know what I mean? He's reached that point where he's just a good... people just respect him too much.
Because he's too good.
It's not even...
And he's done it for so long,
that's what
so
I'm saying. He's evergreen now.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird that we are now in a position where we've watched enough wrestling where, 30 years ago, 40 years ago... that was not like a thing that happened. Very few wrestlers reached that point.
Yeah.
Like even the ones
tenure
who
was
should
much
have
shorter.
Didn't. Like Andre the Giant never was able to get to that position he should have been able to. He died before he could. And he died young. He was in his 40s. Like, fuck, that's scary. But he had a lot of physical ailments. My point is, like, back in the old days, back in the 70s, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s for the most part, there was somewhere else you could go. There's another promotion you can go to. People didn't stick around that long.
Yeah.
Even Hulk Hogan didn't stick around that long, right? We are now at a point where the WWE is like the biggest show in town, where they take better care of their talent physically. where guaranteed money changed everything. Everything. Downside guarantees changed everything. Where people can just stick around for 20 years. Again, like, we didn't grow up with that. Like, not really. Like, it wasn't a constant. Now, guys like Orton has been there for so fucking long. He's basically, like, he is the WWE. So he gets a pop because he is.
He's now Undertaker.
He's been around for so long that there are people who are, like, in their 20s and have been watching him their entire life.
Yeah.
And know nothing other than this dude, Randy Orton is the baddest man, like.
Yeah. And for our listeners who don't watch current wrestling, Orton's back.
Yeah, he is kind of back. A lot has happened.
He looks fucking swole too, man.
He came back during our break.
He looks he looks fit.
A number of people came back during our break. And,
and you can say there's Undertaker is on a level all to himself, because it's not just Mark Calloway. It's also the character of the Undertaker is complete. There's nothing that can touch it. Randy Orton's character isn't quite at that mythological tier that Undertaker is, but in terms of being the company guy, in terms of being loyal to the company, I don't know if he's a locker room leader at this point or not. I would assume that if he talks, that you're going to listen.
Right.
They put him with young guys to help them out. I mean, he basically made Riddle something.
Yeah.
And I fucking hated that guy.
You did.
I did. Again, probably just because he didn't wear boots or shoes to the ring.
Still irritates me.
That's gross, man.
That's that Prince Ikea shit.
There's some shit in that ring, man. These guys spit, they sweat, they bleed.
He's just willy-nilly with his toes.
He's just like, I don't want to walk in grass barefoot. It's fucking weird to me. And that guy's doing it anyway. But, he can work with younger talent. He can help bring guys along. He can mentor guys. He's a voice in that locker room that everybody's going to listen to. And he's never wanted to go anywhere. I think that's another great thing about it is that, fortunately it worked out that he never wanted to go anywhere. They always wanted to pay him what he was worth. Like, there didn't be any of those types of distractions that some of these other guys have. And he was been able to handle the schedule, as well. So fucking all the props to Randy Orton. And again, probably the best finisher maybe in all of wrestling. Just a finisher that can come out of nowhere.
But in 2005, it didn't.
No.
It was always telegraphed.
Yeah.
Like, you knew it was coming. Whereas now, you'll just get an RKO out of nowhere.
That's the Viper persona. The Viper strikes.
Right. Yes.
So even watching that evolve has been fantastic. But I'm a big Randy Orton fan.
And we have the game in his full on evolution mode, and I know at least one other time on this show I've said it, and I feel like it's worth mentioning again. Just even though back in that stage I did not appreciate Triple H the way I do kind of now, I've always appreciated his commitment to the character of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, in that the only thing that mattered to him was the title. That was the only thing. I remember the promos we say I'd pedigree my own mother if it meant getting a shot at the fucking title. But that is, to me, that's what a professional wrestler. If you're not, like Steve Austin said, if you're not getting into it to be the main event, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right. And that statement embodies Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I remember it's little things, because I may not appreciate his politicking over the years from what I've read. Not that I was there, but I always appreciate his commitment to the character. I remember it was a Monday Night Raw. Cena's heavyweight champion for like the 5th time by this point. It was him, Cena, maybe Michaels, maybe CM Punk. There's a bunch of faces in the ring. And I think it was during his DX days with Shawn again. And they're doing like a big group promo. And Cena's got the title. And he's talking. And there's just a shot of the game just staring him down, looking directly at the belt. And I know this, he did it obviously on purpose. And the Michael Cole made mention of it, like, the game, like staring down that title around Cena's waist. But that right there is That's Triple H. He has no other reason to exist.
He's got no loyalties to anything except for gold.
Just the gold, because he needs it. It defines him, defines the character. And I've always appreciated that gimmick. Like, that is him.
Well, and I think that kind of lends a little bit to what was going on at that time as well. You know, at that point in time, you had, you know, Undertaker went back to the Undertaker, right? You know, that we went through the Dead Man era. But your main guys, the guys that were carrying the company, the guys that brought WWE to heights unbeknownst to itself, were gone.
Yes.
You know, Rock is aspiring in Hollywood, and no matter what Triple H will ever do in his career, he would never be and achieve the heights of Undertaker. He's never going to achieve the popularity of Stone Cold. He had to be the company guy. Like, there was a lot, I think, of life imitating art in this point where, you know, yeah, that character always wanted the gold. But I think in order to kind of legitimize where Hunter was at this stage of, you know, his career, that was also needed. He needed to legitimize because he was never going to be Rock. He was never going to, no matter how often he wanted to play in that pool, he was never going to be the guy.
Yeah, he'd always be the number two.
He would always be number two or number three. So I think there's a lot of life imitating art here with that character, with wanting the gold, with being the backstage guy. And of course, look at where it got him.
It worked.
It did. I don't know if that was ever really the intent, but it became what it was. So I think it's kind of fascinating seeing that character at this stage, kind of looking back on it now and seeing where he is. That was his way of legitimizing his place in all this, I think.
Well said. I agree. And I think that it worked out pretty good for him. Granted, now The Rock's his boss, which is funny in itself.
Isn't it funny that the two guys running wrestling now in the WWE are... Well, I mean, Rock will have some input, but it's Triple H's show.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you I know neither of you guys read Bret Hart's biography, but a fucking amazing book. But he wrote in that time when Rocky first came up, Bret was there, Shawn's there, Hunter's there, I'm talking 96, 97, and he writes about how apparently Shawn and Hunter were politicking like with Vince and different producers because they didn't like Dwayne Johnson at all. And obviously, I'm sure it was all fucking jealousy, because look at the fucking guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're going to be jealous of a guy like that who's just coming in like with a rocket ship attached to him.
You have to tear him down because that's the only way you're going to pull yourself up.
Right. So they were trying to, I guess, shit talk him and dress him down and things like that. Shawn has, you know, talked shit on him in front of the, you know, and Bret was very much like, you know, took him under his wing a little bit. And then Rock's first book talks about how Bret and Owen took him under his wing and was like really instrumental in learning the ropes and the road and just traveling. The irony of that is now The Rock is Triple H's boss. That shit is fantastic. Yeah. That after all these years, it didn't work. It just didn't fucking work.
You thought he was gone, he fucking came right back.
And he can tell you what the fuck to do kind of now. He kind of can. And he will. And he probably already has. But this match was fine.
This was very much, I felt, a throwback match. Like, kind of like an older, like, it had a lot of 80s vibes, early 90s vibes, where, you know, because Triple H just worked the fucking knee, man.
And that's what he does, because he's a fan of wrestling.
That's my point, though, is like, when you look at this match in the vacuum of this pay-per-view, it feels different.
It felt different than the other matches,
It's
for sure.
different. You know, it felt like if Bret Hart was in the ring instead of Randy Orton, it would make sense. It'd probably be better because he probably would have sold it better.
Well, yeah.
And I didn't see enough limping for
that's
Randy
a lost
Orton,
art these days.
In that case, I mean, he was selling, getting the shit beat out of him. I give him credit. I'm like, yeah, he's really selling.
Hunter
He's really selling it.
Concussed the shit out of him, making him easy pickings. It was a weird finish.
Was that a real concussion, or was he selling that? Because no. I have a note here.
He was out then shortly after this pay-per-view, and then when he came back, he was heel.
You know, there's a shot here in this match, you know, 2/3 of the way through, they're outside the ring. Triple H is about to get the sledgehammer out from underneath, and, you know, Orton's a little bloody. He's got a little bit of blood in his mouth, and his mouth's kind of open a little bit, and I said, he really looks like a concussed beaver receiving an enema.
What?
When we're done here, I'll go ahead and pull that up and pause it, and you'll see exactly what I mean. You know,
A beaver, though.
he looks like look in the shot. It looked like he had only 2 fucking teeth in his mouth. Like the other 23 disappeared. It was just like he looked like he was buck teeth, and he's just gonna like sitting there. I wish you guys could have saw the face I made right now. Jeff laughed. Herb's just as usual. I don't know how to take Dave right now.
So hard.
Judging, but it definitely looked like he was a little bit on Dream Street there.
Oh, he did a good job.
And I want to give a special shout out here to JR in this match.
JR.
You know, again, there's just so many elements of this match that were different than the rest of the pay-per-view. I had to make a little note here, and I transcribed it word for word. This is, again, right around that time. Orton's laying on the ground. It's got Triple H, puts him into the ring post. You know, Triple H is holding his face because his face went into the ring post. And, then JR just starts kind of going off. And he's like, oh, that was instinctive. I don't think Orton had that, had a thought. Mighty Orton's in another stratosphere. The referee is still down. Triple H, he's holding his face. He might have broken his nose and he's got the sledgehammer in the ring. What's he doing with the sledgehammer in the ring? And the world title's on the line. Like this point in the match just kind of slows down where Orton's on the outside, Triple H is stumbling, and JR just takes this moment to just fucking set the stage for the last bit of this match. And it's just so beautifully well done. I missed that.
So I'm glad you said that. So I do, on occasion, listen to Jim Ross's podcast, which is really interesting because he talks about a lot of stuff from like in the 70s, 80s. He's been around for fucking like 50 years almost.
Long time.
God bless him. We need JR more in the world. He said something about, because he is the greatest announcer of all time. And it's not even an argument. There's no argument to be made, realistically. He was asked about it way back in the beginning episodes. And he said, one of the most important things as an announcer you could do, and it all made sense once he said it, it's sometimes not about just saying things. Yeah, that's your job. But you have to tell the story to the audience in sound bites. And when he said that, it clicked, because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. What do we think about? Good God Almighty. That man, God is my witness, that man is broken in half, and everybody remembers
one sentence at a time.
Stomp in a mud hole in his ass and walk it dry. Stuck he's bleeding like a stuck pig, or he's beaten like a government mule. Like, sound bites. That's what JR does. He's mastered that ability. So every time we watch these shows, and like, fuck, man, JR, sound bites. And you remember those bits and pieces.
Well, it's kind of like when you're reading a novel. You're reading a piece of fiction, and there's that paragraph in the story where there's no dialogue. The author is just setting the scene. And I think that's something that's a lost art, especially with today's announcers. I mean, I like the guys that the WWE has. I mean, I think now that Vince is out of Cole's ear, I think Cole's been much better.
Yes, he has.
I'm a big Pat McAfee fan. Corey Graves, I think, does a great job. It's great. The fucking British guy, I can't remember.
Barrett.
Wade Barrett, thank you. I think Wade does a great job with everything too. Like they just have a great collection of guys that are contributing to it, but none of them have that narrator's voice necessarily that I think they need, because again, as we've always said, part of the reason why we love the Attitude Era and everything else is because JR and King told it to us. And those guys just knew how to not just tell us what was happening, but they contributed to the story in a very unique way that made all of that better.
There are matches that have happened. I couldn't tell you what happened, but I remember shit that JR said in that match. It's the damnedest thing. And it resonates in my brain, and I don't forget it because, and again, I would hope that one day we could do an episode on Jim Ross, just like, it wouldn't be a full episode, but just his ability to tell you how to feel without telling you explicitly how to feel, right? Just little things, right? It's a skill and it's an ability. And a lot of people don't realize how many really smart people he worked under when he was 22 years old for fucking decades to become how good he is. But yes, Jim Ross is the fucking man. And the wrestling world needs more of him and not an AEW. God damn it.
It is what it is.
It is. Listen, they're paying him.
Yeah.
Like he's in the
Sometimes
70s.
you need-
I respect it. But yeah, good match. Weird finish. It wasn't anything special necessarily, but it was a fine championship match, and which allows me to transition right over to how much of a bigot is JBL, his character.
Oh, so
Holy fuck.
You mean the walking sack of testicles backstage?
Holy shit, man. That whole fucking segment, I'm like, this motherfucker.
yeah,
Talking to
he's
Teddy
just-
Long like this.
just-
I was getting kind of hot about
he's just
it.
saying racist, ignorant shit
like,
to Teddy Long.
Like, what? Fucking heel, man. God damn that. He's doing a good job. Doing a fucking good job.
Just, again, blinded by rage.
He's a fucking
But he
heel.
was blinded by champagne in his eyes.
Which
too.
I think
he was physically blinded.
I honestly think I tuned out a little bit about what was actually going on in that segment because I was taking such joy in watching his eyes burn.
Well, he was saying some shit
Yeah.
that you get cut for.
Yeah, Teddy Long was trying to tell him that.
I know.
At the next show, he was going to have to face Big Show without outside interference from his guys.
And where was that next show? In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's ironic there was no tag team player. It was just a fucking one-on-one match. God damn.
Barbed wire steel cage match.
Yes.
Oh my god. So here we are. This is something. The Royal Rumble.
This is something.
One of sports' greatest spectacles, they say.
But this match was what, about 51 minutes, I think, total?
Something like that.
51:27
Yep.
was the running time. I felt like it was a tight Royal Rumble. I'm used to the Rumble matches now lasting over 60 minutes.
Yeah. It also seemed like at the beginning, like it was like sort of a slow build, and then in the middle of the match, it seemed like the new guys were coming out like that timer was going way
I
faster.
think yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. Speaking of people you mentioned earlier, people you forget existed, I constantly am reminded that Daniel Puder was a person who won tough enough,
He won tough enough.
and it didn't matter.
He won tough enough, and apparently in one of his first... So I kind of did a little research on this because I
His shit is infamous.
no fucking clue who this guy was. Apparently he almost fucking killed Kurt Angle in the match.
Which you don't want to do.
No. So what he had a match, or let me see if I can kind of pull this up here because it was really interesting to kind of read it.
Like, I think it was on the Tough Enough show.
No, it was an episode of SmackDown taped in St. Louis. It was an unscripted segment of Tough Enough, but I think it was in, well,
It was Tough Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so he challenged the finalists through a competition. So Chris Narwaki won the competition, prize of a shoot match against Angle. Angle quickly took Narwaki down, guillotine choke. Narwaki managed to make it to the ropes, blah, blah, blah. Puder then accepted a challenge against Angle. Put him in a Kimura lock. A real one.
Yep.
And-
Yep.
That was not good.
It was not the best decision to make.
It was not the best decision to make. Because apparently, he has him in the Kimura lock. Angle puts Puder on his back. Angle's arm locked in the Kimura. Tried to attempt the pin. One of the two referees in the ring, Jim Cordes, quickly counted to 3 to end the bout. Because, apparently it was pretty close that he was going to fucking, rip,
It was going to fucking break his shit.
break his shit.
Yep.
Now, Kurt Angle, as we all know, is a real fucking fighter.
So is Daniel Puder.
So is Daniel Puder. And not realizing that you're not supposed to do it for real. And that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think when Puder made his debut in this Rumble match, just watching him get the shit chopped out of him.
Oh, that was all. Listen,
was fantastic.
When Hardcore Holly,
Oh, God, I love it.
listen, who is, by all accounts, a piece of shit, according to people, and who does not like rookies normally, under normal circumstances.
Commentators are very clear.
Yes.
He does not like rookies.
I've read some stories about what he does to people and how he treats new people. You want to see a bunch of vets take liberties with somebody on national television in front of millions
Those three
worldwide?
definitely did.
They roughed his bitch ass up to no end. Every chop, every chop, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
they
it
were
was-
trying to remove skin from this man.
Yes, they were.
Sending him a clear fucking message. We
Yeah.
don't want you here.
Yeah.
That's literally what it was.
Yeah.
We don't want you
Shut
here.
your mouth.
Well, yeah, I mean, he made Angle look bad.
Yep, you don't
in,
do that.
in that segment, and Angle being one of the top guys, it rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way. He won the $1 million prize with Tough Enough. I didn't realize this. It was a $1 million prize, but it was 4-year contract at $250,000 a year. So you didn't get that 100. You didn't get that $1 million up front.
No.
And the way they kind of had it structured too is that they could terminate the contract after the first year. So you're told you're going to win $1 million. You're only going to get $250,000, and
You
then
gotta
they're
fucking
going to
earn it. Yeah.
and then they're going to
Don't come in
just
being an
knock
asshole.
your ass out, right?
Yeah, mistakes were made, Daniel.
Whew.
Mistakes were made. But yeah, they definitely sent a clear message, and to transition away from fucking Daniel Pewter, because no one wants to fucking talk about him anyhow. Yet again, and I apologize to the audience because I say this at least once every few months. If Shelton Benjamin could have just had serviceable promo skills, that's all he needed is to cut a fucking half decent promo. Half decent. I don't mean fucking top of the line shit here. I just mean like get up there, get out there, get the crowd up, and we're good to go.
Yeah, he
His
had
ass
the
would have had a
look.
run at the main event at least once.
He had the look. He had the skill.
He had more than the fucking skill. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, that dude was so fucking money.
Yeah, you're getting to a point here with wrestling where the athleticism of certain guys takes over. And, the WWE creating a machine, if you will, of trying to take some of these phenomenal athletes and translate them into the wrestling world. You know that wrestling is not about athleticism necessarily. There's a lot of athleticism that goes into it, but you don't have to be a gifted athlete necessarily to be a professional wrestler. That's not saying that these guys aren't gifted athletes. It's not that at all. Because I've done a match, and after I think 3 minutes, I wanted to fucking die.
I wanted to vomit all over myself.
I'm like, knock me out of the ring, let me lay there for 10 minutes because I can't breathe. It is fucking impossible. I think I heard something recently on a podcast or on an interview. I think it was Seth Rollins was saying that part of the reason why Ronda Rousey didn't make it in WWE is because she didn't have the endurance. She didn't have the built up stamina to be able to do the schedule that you necessarily need to. So, you see these guys that are gifted athletes that can do things that nobody else has done. You want to push what wrestling can be. So you want to get these guys in, but they don't have the mic skills. They don't have that charisma necessarily. Because I was always a big fan of John Morrison, but same situation. The guy had the look, fucking could do things in the ring nobody else could do. However, you put a microphone in front of that guy's face and it's done.
Yeah.
It was like serviceable at best with him, which
Yeah.
is why he was able to at least stick around and have the ECW heavyweight title.
Well, they would try to put him with guys that could talk to take that onus off of him, or hopefully you think like maybe he would pick some of it up. But that just goes to show you it's not about having the ability to do one thing. You have to have the ability to do all of it.
Now
right?
imagine if Shelton Benjamin didn't have serviceable promo skills, but had fucking main event level promo skills.
It's a different story.
We're talking main event WrestleMania,
Yeah.
and it was like right. It was fucking right.
It was so
there.
close. It
God
was
damn
within
it.
reach.
And every time I watch his matches, I go, "This fucking dude's way too good for his own good. Way too goddamn
He fucking
good."
did like a standing broad jump up to the top of the fucking on top of the ring post.
Because he could.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
And and it's interesting.
Like just jumped and just stood up without using his fucking hands.
Because that's what you do when you're fucking Shelton
Like
Benjamin.
we're excited when the Undertaker just sits up.
I mean, yeah,
You're not
probably
wrong.
does,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I'm watching this match, and he just fucking runs and just jumps up.
Spider-Man's that shit.
Spider-Man's that shit, and he's just standing there. I'm like, the fuck did this guy not?
The correct response is, how dare you
I know.
defy gravity in such a manner?
Yeah, that's not natural.
Like when we used to have my favorite WWE WrestleMania match, when the Money in the Bank was there, where it should still be. Having Shelton in those matches was always great because you knew there, just like with Kofi when he's in the Rumble now and everything, there's going to be a spot that he's going to do something that's fucking crazy and can potentially steal the show.
Right.
So
I made it a point to write this down because I thought it was really cool when it kind of clicked in my head, and I feel like you guys will appreciate this. So this Rumble was really interesting for a number of reasons. But if you stop for a second and look at the Rumble that just passed in 2024,
Yep.
and the participants, the majority, like the 90% of the participants, versus this Rumble that had like the dichotomy between these two rosters, the difference, and specifically like we got Booker T, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, just to name a few, right? Just to name a few
Yep.
of the individuals who understood kind of what it meant to be hungry. Because a lot of old timers accuse these new kids of not being hungry enough. They're very complacent. You know, Undertaker, Kane, all these different fucking people, Triple H, all these wrestlers had to sleep in their car, had to travel across the country for training,
It was a grind.
had to eat hot dogs and potatoes for dinner every
I
night.
fucking love that Stone Cold story.
It's the fucking truth,
The
right?
potatoes and a can of tuna.
That's what you
all he could afford.
because it was common, especially back like in the smaller territories back in the 70s and the 80s. Like you got paid literally in food. You got hot dogs from the concession stand and a fucking Coke. That's your pay. The house wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
It's like you either get $10 or food. Well, I guess I'll choose the food.
Yeah.
You gotta eat, right? But still maintain your fucking physique. All this shit, like all these guys, it's a whole culture shift now. All these people, it's gone now. There's like really no one left now in the WWE who on an active main event full-time roster that knows what it's like to want to be paid dependent on the house. That is it right there.
Yeah, having what was the contract with Netflix? $5 billion or is it $10 billion?
$5 billion.
$5 billion. Yeah, when you're signing a $5 billion television deal, shit changes a little bit.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
without a doubt.
I imagine because like when you're dependent on the house, your performance matters week to week, right? You can be hungry, you can be jealous of the guy next to you. I want that spot. Austin understood that because he experienced it. All these other guys I mentioned experienced it. They understood the need and the want. The wrestlers now. And it's a good thing in a way, but it's a bad thing. Like, it's good that they're all being paid a very healthy living wage. But at the same time, they'll never really know truly what it means to want it and have to really claw for it. Because it's a very different environment now. And I just think that's so fascinating.
Yeah, even if you watch, this latest Rumble compared to this one that we're talking about today, just how guys come to the ring. Like today, everybody just takes their time. They'll get there when they get there. They eye things up from outside the ring. Like in this particular Rumble, half these guys just went full bore.
Yeah.
And like ran from the entry ramp all the way into the ring and just started going.
Yeah.
Now, in their defense, it was a much shorter entrance ramp.
It's not
Now
fair.
now
they have to run 300 yards.
Now, when you got the ring in like dead center field at
It's quite a sprint.
at Tropicana Field in Tampa, that's you could try sprinting that, and then after about 10 seconds, you're done, and you still have half the way to go. So, slightly different with the venue there.
Yeah.
But
So we mentioned Shelton Benjamin, so he came in as entrant number 9.
yeah,
If anyone was playing the Royal Rumble drinking game along with this pay-per-view, at this point we had some pretty notable stars in the ring. Edge, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit.
thank you for not saying the Hurricane.
A lot of finishers and a lot of eliminations happened really fast when Edge and Rey Mysterio got in the ring.
I did, because I watched this the second time before we came over. I did strongly consider doing the drinking game before I came over. And then I thought to myself, I won't be able to get over there.
Shit ain't happening.
Because I thought about that. Real quick, before we kind of move on to the match, so going back to Daniel Putter, whatever the fuck his name is.
He got eliminated like 10 minutes ago.
He was the first one eliminated, but this was the thing that I just noticed when looking at the Wikipedia here. Hardcore Holly came in number 4. Hardcore Holly was in that match for one reason and one reason only.
Oh, yes.
And that was to chop the fucking shit out of him.
He was only in the match for 2 minutes.
That was it. As soon as Puter was out, he got eliminated.
That was a concerted effort by the producers, by Vince McMahon, to teach that motherfucker a lesson. And I guarantee you the boys were back there popping like no one's business, watching that shit on the monitors.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't count the 30 seconds where he cut a promo outside the ring once he got in there, He got his ass beat for 4 minutes and 10
did.
seconds straight.
He did.
He took it. I'll give him credit.
It was just, I just noticed that. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. He did. His entire purpose was there just to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, that was
So-
it.
We have Muhammad Hassan, who had fucking mega heat, like no one's fucking business mega heat.
Right,
Like,
right.
We're talking mega heat that did not belong in 2005. Unfortunately,
They were treating him like he was the 22nd terrorist.
he listen. I remember. It's funny, like Muhammad Hassan. I was a fan of the idea of him because he was a guy you could really fucking dislike and boo and really genuinely boo. Like JBL, you can boo this motherfucker, and I love that. UPN did not like it, and they were like, "Nah, son." Those London bombings, the terrorist attack. Once that was done, he was out.
Yeah, it's no good.
They pulled that fuck, and it sucks
It's not a good look.
because he was so good at it. He was so over as a heel, and it was fantastic.
Everyone fucking hated him.
He could have had a run at a heavyweight
He
title.
was a good looking guy too. Like he was
was
fucking
fit.
ripped.
Ironically, he's Italian,
Yeah.
which of course he is.
I mean, Yokozuna wasn't exactly Japanese.
no, not at all.
Just
But at least
we're
he's-
gonna shoehorn that.
But at least he's Samoan.
It's yeah. This I had the cultural appropriation of Muhammad Hassan coming
He's
into
from like
the,
fucking New York. I think he's a
It's-
teacher now.
so fucking weird.
His entire career was fucking ruined
Yeah.
because of that, and it could have been a money career for a few.
They should have
years.
just let him go away and come back and just package him as a different character. Nobody would have remembered.
Yeah,
Oh.
he got into
Just take the headpiece off and nobody's gonna give a shit.
when he got in the ring, all the action stopped,
Yeah.
and they just circled around him
What
like
was-
a hate crime and
It
just
was kind of a hate
beat
crime.
the shit out of him and threw him out. He was
Well-
in there for less than a minute.
What was even funny about that is like even right before he came out, they drew the fucking line. The SmackDown guys were on one side of the
Yeah.
ring. The Raw guys were on the other side of the ring. And they're like, clearly, there's nothing that's going to bring these wrestlers together until. And then of course, that ended that. Now, Jones, you mentioned Muhammad Hassan, but before we go ahead and talk about Muhammad Hassan, I want to bring up Roman Reigns' third cousin twice removed.
Luther Reigns.
Luther Reigns.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
You're gonna acknowledge him.
Yeah, you gotta. Well,
Yeah.
how many numbers we put up for Luther Reigns? Like 4.
4 fingers.
4 fingers. We're gonna go ahead and do that. Maybe 5.
Okay.
6. Just all thumbs. All thumbs for Luther Reigns. I mentioned this earlier, and this was something that I notice a lot with WWE now. It drives me fucking crazy. You've got Hardcore Holly. You've got Eddie Guerrero. You've got Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio, Shelton Benjamin, Booker T. These are names I believe. Kurt Angle. It's his fucking name, right? Not Kurt Anchor.
No.
It's Kurt Angle.
Right.
But every once in a while, the WWE clearly doesn't know how to fuck name somebody. Because these guys can't come up with a character name themselves, or their name is just piss poor by wrestling standards. So they come up with Luther Reigns. They don't spell it Rains or anything. No, it's Reigns. Like he's going to reign in the WWE kingdom.
Right.
And you have Braun Breaker, whatever. You get the idea.
Listen, he's gonna find you in spirit.
That's fine. Braun Strowman. Like, they're clearly going back to, like, a fucking Chat GPT program. What is the corniest, shitty name we can come up with
Breaker
somebody?
with 2 Ks, by the way.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He knows, too, because he's got to fucking write that on autographs all the time, and he forgets, because it's an extra K. Who needs
Does
it?
he forget?
As long as it's not 3 Ks,
If he
he's
spells
okay.
it wrong, are you going to question him on it?
Well, no, because that dude is like 4 dudes standing next to each other, and he wears like the fucking wrestling thing, and
Yeah, because he's a Steiner.
I know, I get it, but I'm saying,
I get it, goddammit.
but like the WWE has an issue when they're like bringing some of these guys in, where they have these terrible fucking names, and it's clearly like some group of people back. It's like when you have the wrestler who comes out and he has the really shitty entrance music. It's clearly like the we're just going to give you this music because you need to have music. It's like they're going to give you this name because we're just going to give you this fucking name. And I hate when I see those names because like I don't buy it. None of these guys are, Who's the fucking Bronson Reed? Same deal.
Some really shitty.
Bronson Reed.
There's some really.
It sounds intimidating. Like this, I can hear Vince McMahon backstage. Like, it just sounds intimidating. You're Bronson Reed. Like, fuck you, man. Nobody buys that shit. Nobody buys that you're that fucking character or anything else. Skip Sheffield. No, we're gonna change your name to Casey fucking Ryback. We're just gonna call you Ryback. Like, fuck you guys, man. Come up with something better. You know, I believe guys more when they are their names, not these like computer generated just token names they're putting on these guys. I fucking hate them. It sucks. Sorry. That's the pebble in my shoe. Because I love Braun Breaker. He's going to be a fucking champion. That guy's got all of it. He's got the athleticism. He's got the look. He's got the skill. You know, he just has it. You look at that guy and you're like, you're going to put the title on that dude someday.
Wasn't it they were saying that his clocked speed of running the ropes is like 22 miles an hour?
It's insane.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's insanity. But he's got it. But he's going to have to do this, overcoming his fucking name. I don't see that being his name like his entire career. At some point, that shit's going to change. Because nobody just wants to get the Braun Breaker t-shirts.
I mean,
You know,
how do you
fucking-
change that name now?
I don't know. He
It's
could just-
very established as...
It is, but, you know, he's a fucking
Yeah.
Steiner. So at some
He had
point
a
in
big run in
time...
NXT.
Yeah.
He has a following.
Yeah, but you give him that name because you want him to make a name for himself, not off the name of his family. But at some point in time, when we go beyond the name and the character is established, he's going to go back to being, you know, if his first name's actually Braun, then
I don't think it is.
No,
Yeah.
but if it's like Rick Steiner or John Steiner or something, he'll just go and be fucking John Steiner, and everybody will be fine with it.
Was it Rocksteiner, their actual last names? Ross Steiner, I think. It's it's not Steiner.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
Steiner sounds way cooler than their actual last name.
yeah. But I'm just saying, he will probably get to a point where he will go more on his own name once he's made it for himself, and he doesn't need to rely on his name to get him there.
I mean, I'm not saying I love the name Braun Breaker, but it fits him.
For now.
For now. Perhaps. For the
Yeah.
now. Yeah. So there's the pebble in your foot. We're going to knock
Glad
that one
you got
right
that
out.
out.
Get out of my shoe, man. Get that shit out of here.
So at least every show we watch, I'm always kind of very attentive to the commentary. Because whether it's Bobby Heenan or Jim Ross or Jerry Lawler or Taz or somebody, Gorilla Monsoon, somebody says something that just pops the shit out of me. And I had to pause it and laugh because I'd never heard this shit before. And I laughed in an unnecessary amount because coming from Taz, it was funny. And just, I'm going to use this at some point in life. He was talking about the coach. He's like, last time I saw arms like that, they were hanging out of a nest. And I fucking lost my shit. It's not even that funny, but it's funny as shit because it's like, oh, little birdie arms. I got a kick out of that. Thank you, Taz.
Poor coach.
Hanging out of a nest. Anyhow.
Yeah, Coachman was definitely... And Coachman lasted for 13 minutes and 48 seconds in that match.
He hit in the corner
Yeah.
for 13 minutes.
Smartest man in the match.
He just sat.
If you go ahead and take the time of Ric Flair, Christian, Kane, let's see, Shawn Michaels, and add it together, they weren't in that match for a combined 13 minutes. That was a hell of a thing for me. Like some of those guys, Benoit and Guerrero. Benoit was in there for 48 minutes. Guerrero was in there for 29 minutes and everything. Edge was in there for 40 minutes, and then Coach 13 minutes. I mean, he's over. He was in there for longer than over half of that fucking match.
Yeah.
Coach.
And that's something?
Yeah.
I definitely wrote in there at one point. How the fuck is Coach still in this? And I forgot about this pay-per-view setup. One of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time, Angle and HBK. Their match at WrestleMania 20 was fucking spectacular.
Good.
Yeah.
There was actually possibly one of the most flawless matches I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of it. We got fucking John Cena, who's over like fucking Rover, big time. You know?
What a pop he got when Thugonomics hit,
So,
man.
you think you're untouchable. Fucking crowd's like, yes, let's do it. Because it's word life.
You're all in.
Rucking fools.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Back in the old days when he wore shirts like that. Fucking, Paul London's elimination was suspect as fucking hell. That shit looked not good. At all.
Oh, he was broken in half.
Yeah, he was dead.
God is my witness.
Somehow he was
He
dead.
did not hit that well.
He spun upside down in a way. It's not
Like
natural.
his neck is still spinning from that.
So I know we talked in the gestation period of this show when we first started this all those years ago. We were sitting down trying to come up with ideas. So we have like a laundry list of subjects and movies and games we haven't touched on yet. But one of them was wrestling theme songs. And we haven't touched that yet. We're still figuring out the logistics of that and how we would make it actually interesting for everybody to listen to. But with that being said, I'm just going to fucking tell you what my number one is. And it still is.
I know where you're going with it.
Viscera.
You know me so well.
Mark Jendrick.
No.
Are we talking about
Okay,
Rene
this will be
Dupree?
good. Tell me, what do you think it is?
Rene Dupree.
Let's be like
Charlie
a
Haas.
real guess.
Rene Dupree and Mark Jendrick actually had a moment in this match, and all I thought about was like, this is kind of reminds me when somebody from Abercrombie and Fitch got in like the face of somebody from American Eagle at the mall, and this is what happened.
Fuck. So, okay, you each get 3 guesses. What my favorite all-time theme song is of all time. And obviously it's a big hint because the motherfucker's in this match, right? Right. 3 guesses. What do you think it is?
I'm pretty confident I know the answer.
Give me the fucking answer.
Christian.
There you go.
I know.
That shit.
It's good.
Waterproof
It's
Blonde.
so fucking good, man.
It was better than he deserved in a lot of ways.
I forgot. I had forgot that his theme music was that.
Before he came back, it was like the little Story of the Year version, or whatever that was called, which is a fine version. But the OG, Just Close Your Eyes, because he come out with the hood down and the lights were down and had the spotlight on him. It was way more epic than Christian was.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic.
He oversold
though.
that shit for
And
sure.
it was so good, and it actually, it's beautiful how an entrance theme can make you resonate with a character that you don't normally give a shit about. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I didn't like Christian, but what was he really doing? He had that stupid "At Last You're on Your Own" song. I fucking hated that song. With his feud with DDP, like I think the year before. But just close your eyes, and fucking he'd come out and just like it made him look like a main eventer. And so I started looking at him as a main eventer. And there was that weird little period where they were starting to push that, him being in a main event spot.
Giving him a shot.
And then he went to TNA.
And yeah. And he did Christian things.
They did Christian Cage and did his thing.
Yeah.
He came back a bigger star, thankfully. But yeah, that shit, that fucking song, that is my number one. It always will be.
Yeah.
It's just
Solid.
it's too fucking good. Wrestling music is just so fucking fantastic.
When it fits. You know, I mean, like there again, it's one of those things where all these different things have to come together for it to work. You could be a good wrestler, you could be good on the mic, you have a good look, you could have good athleticism, but you could have a shit theme song. And
it hurts, man.
It hurts.
It really
holds you back. It does. But then you could be an okay wrestler, not bad on the mic, pretty decent in-ring ability and everything. But then that fucking song happens and it pushes you. I'm not going to sit there and say that CM Punk would or would not have accomplished CM Punk things, but that fucking theme song helps, man. When the call to personality hits, people...
It's universal.
It's universal. It is. It's a big thing. Stone Cold. You know, if the glass doesn't break, are you going to necessarily... Does Stone Cold... It all works.
Right.
You know, it's a necessity for it.
I agree.
If the dead man doesn't have Kid Rock playing him in,
Well,
all right, so maybe
Limp
not.
Bizkit.
Maybe not. Was it Limp Bizkit?
Yeah, Limp Bizkit too.
it was a whole lot of people,
There was
unfortunately.
a lot of late '90s, early 2000s angst there.
So let's talk about the Final Four, right? We got Rey Mysterio Jr., Edge, Cena, and Batista. We're talking like really 4 people who will be the future main events of the next several years, and 2 of them, or actually 2 of them for a couple decades. 3 of them actually for a couple decades. It's really cool to see. We didn't know then, obviously, what we were witnessing. But looking back on it now, it's so cool to see where John Cena has gone from here.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the final four, those four guys eliminated 16 out of the 30 participants.
It's impressive.
Batista also came in as like a house of fire.
He just wrecked the shit out of everyone we got in there.
We talk about this OVW graduating class, right? I mean, Shelton Benjamin, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Batista, right there. All graduated the same class in OVW.
A lot of those guys had very questionable tattoos.
Yes.
And maybe it was just part of the thing.
It's possible.
It's what they do.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how this class of talent really changed the WWE as a whole. That's like
Oh, it
that's
really did.
arguably the
Yeah.
greatest developmental class ever. Period. And I'm missing people on that.
You're
list.
lucky if you get a couple guys out of that.
We got like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
They got literally like 5 Hall of Fame people. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
technically
it was-
4 because we don't count Brock anymore.
But
Unfortunately.
it was really the catalyst of, where the direction that the WWE would go. And they carried it for how long,
You know who that was? You know who helped make that class happen? Jim fucking Ross. Because he was the head of talent relations. He courted all those motherfuckers.
Good old JR.
Are you kidding me?
There's also, I think there's also something to be said about, of course, we often talk about how the Attitude Era worked because you had a bunch of guys that were coming up at the same time that were able to push each other. I don't know that you have a Rock without Triple H. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because those guys were able to because there's a void. Michaels wasn't there anymore. Bret Hart left. A lot of the guys went to WCW. It's kind of similar here. You had a situation, again, where there is a void. There are some guys holding it down, but there was an opportunity for guys to be able to come in. And the fact that they were able to come up together gave them an opportunity, I think, to kind of push each other in certain ways that elevated the whole group.
Serious question. I don't have a number for this, but do you even imagine just these 4 here? Ray, Edge, Cena, Batista. How many times from that day forward they made event at pay-per-views and Raws and SmackDowns?
It's got to be a big number.
Together and separately. It's
Yeah,
crazy
It's a
amount.
big number.
That's
That
a
is-
big number.
Possibly, and some research needs to be done on this, possibly the greatest Final Four of all time, actually.
Yeah.
The most money Final Four ever. Which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
And now look, back in 1993 at the Royal Rumble, Brett and Luger, 2 competent pros who've been wrestling for many, many years, could not pull it off on purpose. They were instructed to land simultaneously and could not fucking do it. If you stop and think about it, coordinating 2 people to somehow simultaneously, magically land on camera at the exact same time is actually a really difficult thing to do, but somehow, it's actually probably impossible, but somehow, by sheer effing accident, John Cena and Batista were able to pull that off.
Well, it's interesting, too, how once we got to the Final Four, how quickly we got down to 2.
Yes.
A lot
Yeah.
of times when you get to this point of the match, this resets the stage of the match. It's kind of a thing now, I think, especially with the Rumble, is that you wait to see who the Final Four is. The Final Four is a big deal, and then it almost resets the match.
Yes.
And then when you get down to the Final 2, it resets again.
Yes.
And it becomes an entirely different thing. It's one of the things I love about the Rumble. Because, truth be told, and I'm going to say something that might be a little bit unpopular here, the Rumble in a lot of cases is a rather uninteresting match in terms of what's going on in the ring at any point in time, because you got a bunch of wrestlers that are in there just trying to fill time.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
There's not really doing a whole lot. Some guys are sitting down
Yeah.
and they're getting kicked. Some guys are getting punched. A guy comes in with a house of fire. They have their 20 seconds of fame.
They get their finish in. Yeah.
I love listening to Cody when he was talking about one of the first times he did the Rumble. And, you talk with the guys backstage. So when you come in, what do you want to do? Let's go ahead and kind of set up your moment, because when you come into the Rumble, that's your moment. The eyes are on you. You have an opportunity to do something. And he was talking about how just generous The Undertaker was, because he ended up doing some stuff and then it was done. And it was 15 seconds. And he's like, what do I do now? Taker was there, so he goes and he hits Taker. Taker turns around and looks at him, and this goes, slam. Cody's like, holy shit, Taker wants me to body slam him. So he does it. And he's like, that just kind of goes and shows like how generous Undertaker
Because
really
he
was.
really didn't have to do
No,
that.
he didn't have to do that, but he gave him that opportunity. So these guys, because it went from 4, Mysterio was the first one out, down to 3, and then Edge goes out. And then you've got Drax the Destroyer against Peacemaker, Marvel versus DC, 15 years early.
Right.
And, that spot, unbelievable.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It can't... And I kind of... Because when these things happen, the match does become very interesting. And I kind of feel like... And of course, how do you in the moment think of this? You should have a contingency. But I felt they really dropped the ball on this. Because with having the two of them hit simultaneously, I thought they had an opportunity to carry something out for another 6 weeks before Mania. With those two, you had a great built-in story based on sheer fucking accident of what kind of a story you could tell about, well, who was it? Was it Cena? Was it Batista? Did guys in the locker room have opinions on it? How do you set up you could set up the match of the next pay-per-view.
You know why they didn't do that? I'll tell you exactly why they didn't do it.
Go for it.
Because Brett Luger literally just done that. Not just, but that was Royal Rumble 1993.
Okay.
Luger and Brett, the whole thing was they were fighting each other. The final two in the Royal Rumble, Lex Luger, the All American Express Lex Luger, and Bret the Hitman Hart, and they eliminate each other. But it wasn't quite perfect. But we just go with it, obviously. Yeah. So I mean, that was 93. You can't just do it again. Although, it's a good idea to just go with it. My question is, I will never know. And I've watched some interviews with people who were there. I wish I could have just been standing there when it happened to see the motherfuckery that Vince experienced when that happened. Because this isn't like Monday Night Raw. This isn't like some live event. This isn't a house show. This isn't even like Judgment Day or something like that. This isn't Backlash. This is the Royal Rumble, the match that dictates the rest of the year. And they done fucked it up. Harder than anybody possibly could.
Yeah, so for those at home who don't know what we're talking about,
so Batista
was supposed to win the match.
Yes. And
the final thing was he was supposed to flip Cena over the ropes and hold on to the rope so that only Cena went over.
Didn't he have didn't Batista had Cena almost up on his shoulders, right, when he got him over to the rope?
He had him in a powerbomb position, and I'd Cena in an interview said it was totally his fault because he said I think his exact words. I'm paraphrasing actually now. I've never been really good with backwards rotations, so he just botched it and took Batista with him.
Yeah. So they both went out and literally hit the ground at the same exact time.
It couldn't be more perfect.
Same time.
You gotta. It's how do you even do that?
It's impossible.
Apparently, it's very possible.
Yeah. Well, no,
by accident.
Well, think about this. I mean, how many Royal Rumble matches were there at that point in time? This was
18.
18?
Yeah.
18 times 30. So pull up the good old calculator here. Great riveting podcast stuff here, right? Yeah. 18 times 30. 540 people have been eliminated in a Royal Rumble match minus 18. So 522. 1 divided by 522. 0.001% of a chance of this happening.
But apparently it can happen.
I don't know what the odds are, similarly to something like that happening, but, that's borderline impossible.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, at the time, we didn't know that wasn't supposed to happen, right?
Right. I thought that was just...
And so the refs were just beside themselves. So the refs started arguing.
I thought the refs did a great job at that point.
They sold the shit out of it.
They really
because there were 2 SmackDown refs, 2 Raw refs.
Let's okay. The refs did a good job, but let's be real. What happened was Vince and Bruce Pritchard. I don't know if Bruce Pritchard was there then, but Vince was in the back telling them what to fucking do.
Yeah.
He had them all on the fucking their piece. You go and you start raising arms. God damn it! That's what he was doing.
Well, I heard Teddy and Bischoff were supposed to go down, but he couldn't find them.
I'm sure he was happy about that too.
So he's like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself.
And he came stomping down.
Storming.
He just did not. He stomped.
And this is where I'm at a weird point. Right here. In this show. In this fucking episode. Because for almost 10 years, this moment in time has been hilarious to me, and it's still funny. And folks, it's Vince McMahon, the chairman of the company. I feel like he's a billionaire at this point.
Yes.
He may not be, but he might be. He goes sliding into the ring the same way he had done probably thousands of times by this point. Thousands of times. And somehow, just as miraculously as Batista and John Cena have landed simultaneously, was a 0.00001% chance of that happening?
Yep.
Somehow, Vince McMahon found a way to slide in at such a speed and angle that he fucking ripped both quads off the bone. I don't know how you even do that.
So,
Well, I had heard that sliding into the ring was when he tore the first one.
And then trying to stand up.
And then when he tried to stand up, he tore the other one. Which is why he just crumbled on the ground and just sat there like a fucking toddler.
Hands on his hips.
Trying to bark orders, and everyone's like, while this is happening, Cena and Batista just keep throwing each other out.
Oh my God, yes.
Can you imagine? Edge has a good story. I love listening to wrestler stories on YouTube and shit. Edge has a great story because of his perspective on that as the last guy out at that point. He's on his way up and Vince is coming down. And I think he watched the rest of it happen like backstage. And he's like, the rage that man had about what happened, just him coming down. Can you imagine? First off, you're Batista and John Cena. You're John Cena and you know you fucked up.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you don't know why Vince is sitting there. You don't know why he can't get up. Vince isn't screaming in pain or anything.
He knows the
didn't
shit
sell
out
it.
of it.
He has a look on his face, almost like a kid who's sitting on the couch and his parents come home and they ate all the cookies in the cookie jar and they know they weren't supposed to and they're waiting to get in trouble. Like, that's the kind of look Vince had on his face a little bit because, he knew that something really fucking bad happened. I show pain when I get a fucking splinter in my finger. Or, a post-season 2, pre-season 3 rash. Circling back to the beginning. But...
Almost forgot about that.
I know. I just had
Thanks
to make
for
sure,
bringing it
I had to
back.
make sure you remembered it.
Yeah, I hope it gets better for next week.
We all do. But the rage that those guys must have been feeling now that Vince not only had to come down there, he had to come downstairs and tell the kids what's what, but he tore both his quads as a result of that. I don't know how, John Cena didn't get fucking fired.
Because he was money.
I know.
And
but it's amazing to me that what those guys had been feeling after they found out, oh my fucking God. Not only did we fuck up the finish of this, but the boss tore both his quads at the same time.
You gotta be a certain kind of psychotic person, which we will end up finding out is very accurate, to
In hindsight.
have an injury like that twice within seconds of each other, and then totally no sell any of it. Nothing. He didn't wince in pain. He didn't. His face was red. No little tear in the corner of the eye. I wouldn't judge for the tear in the eye. Fuck.
Nothing.
I don't know what that feels like. I don't ever want to know what that feels like. I daily at my job, I'm around people in horrible fucking agony. I don't want to know what that pain's like, and I don't want to know what it's like to rip both quads off the bone, back to back. That has got to be an anguish. Anguish is a good word for this. That's got to be an anguish reserved for only the shittiest of people.
Karma's a hell of a thing.
Originally, all I was going to say about this was it's a hell of a thing, Vince McMahon. But now as I'm sitting here in front of you, fuck that. Fuck him, folks, for what he did. Because I can't enjoy this moment anymore the way I did. And more importantly, I can't enjoy fucking 80% of what I've watched. Because now I know, I read that...
It's all tainted.
That New York Times fucking article. I've read the shit that he was doing. Literally, that he was doing. And I can't look at the feud he had with Austin in the same way anymore. It's not the fucking same. And I'm so angry at him for doing that. And this isn't like separating the artist from the art. No. This dude's an evil guy.
This isn't a, somebody did something 20 years ago, and like, because society today is a little bit different, you look back on it and it's like, well, we're going to judge you by today's standards on something that the standards weren't the same 20 years ago, and it's kind of like a cancel culture thing. No. This isn't that. This is a man who preyed on people in a serialistic nature that caused God only knows how much fucking harm to people. And that man had a family. He had a wife. He had kids.
I mean,
he had his grandkids.
The rumor was always that he'd been running behind Linda's back, and it was kind of like a thing that people knew about, but she'd forgiven him. It was like a whole thing. There was the story, the only WWF referee back in the fucking 80s. Apparently he raped her, and like that was settled years later, but no one knows exactly what happened with that. Lady's Rita something or other. Supposedly he forced himself on her, and it was this thing that like you knew about, but you didn't know the ins and outs of it. But now, I feel real fucking confident that did happen.
Now everything's out.
That shit about Ashley Mazzaro and her killing herself and her being assaulted by soldiers overseas, and the WWE covering it up, and Vince knew about it, and Vince was like coming on to her. There was this whole fucking thing that's coming out with it. This shit. With Vince being removed from the WWE, for him stepping down rather, and for those of you, I feel like most of you, or if you listen to this episode, you know at this point about what's going on with Vince McMahon and the accusations about the sex trafficking, the sexual assault, the misappropriation of corporate funds, amongst other allegations. It ain't over.
We're just scratching the surface.
This iceberg, we're still starting to see how big and how deep this goes. Because who knew what?
And I think, I don't know if it's us that have had those conversations or mentioned this, off the air, or if I've had this with other individuals. I can't even quite remember. This stuff that came out recently were actions that this man was doing in his 70s.
Yes.
So you don't just start doing this in your 70s. You don't start this late in life. You start this early in life. So there could be 50 years, and God only knows how many countless people, how many talent.
Oh, there's definitely talent
backstage
involved.
People, anything that this man preyed on, and it's absolutely grotesque.
It's disgusting. He's an
awful.
evil fucking person.
He is.
And I fucking hate this motherfucker for ruining such a... I can't even quote, that's gonna be... I can't even do that. It's not the same anymore. Nothing that he's touched now. It's always gonna be like...
It's all tainted now.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And so I know... the people listen to the show probably listen to this because we talk about things that remove you from society, and you can think about old times, but I feel like this is a few times we're serious, but it's a very serious situation that's affecting our fandom, whether it's waning or in its prime, doesn't matter, but it's a very real thing. And I hope that Vincent Kennedy McMahon is persecuted by the fullest extent of the law. I hope he goes to fucking prison. He won't, but I hope he goes to fucking prison and is dealt with accordingly there too. Whatever you take from that is what you take from that. But yeah. I feel like for a man who's never told no, he's going to learn the word no, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's not going to be pleasant for him.
And it kind of sheds more light too. At the time that he was removed the first time, when the allegations came out, and when he came back, why Stephanie left.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
And then came back and then left again when he came back in.
That's the point, because, I mean, as a woman, people that you worked with, people that, you shared car rides with, you shared meals with, your father did some terrible things to some of those people. Maybe did some terrible things to most of those people. You maybe knew about it, maybe you didn't know about it, maybe you didn't know quite the extent, maybe you didn't know what was consensual, what maybe wasn't consensual, what was kind of borderline. You hear things, I'm sure, and you hear things in a locker room. I'm sure what she would have been told or not told was completely different because it's her fucking dad.
Right.
And then when you start to kind of realize the truth of that investigation, she couldn't have a relationship with her father.
You can't look at your family.
And I think I heard some stuff with Shane too, is that as he was finding out some of these things, was that part of the reason why he stepped aside?
Well, that's people are guessing.
I don't-
That's why,
Speculating.
yeah. And it sucks. And I encourage anybody who's listened to this in a timely fashion to do some research on this subject, because it's really fascinating. And it's like, these people, these human beings, these actors and these artists that we watch and that we create these parasocial relationships with, that we feel like we know them, we don't know them, and they are capable of awful things, just as much as they're capable of amazing things. And it's really unfortunate that a human being that has facilitated so many great memories for everybody at this table, because if there is no Vince McMahon, there is no Hulkamania, there is no People's Champ, there is no Texas Rattlesnake, there is none of that. If it weren't for him and the machine behind him that he created, we'd have none of this. And there's a chance we may not even be sitting here having this conversation, period.
Right.
Like, real talk, if it weren't for Vince, it's weird to say it like that. I don't know. I would have never... I would have met you guys eventually, obviously. I would have met you, Dave, and I would have met Jeff eventually, but I wouldn't have met Noah, guarantee that. That was never going to happen.
Well, no, because we worked with Noah.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he and I were going to be friends.
Oh, I understand that, but there could have been a potential of a crossover,
Maybe
at a Whitfield party.
Maybe.
I think
potentially. Maybe
Yeah, but wrestling was the connection.
wrestling was the thing, man.
it was a commonality that we all had, so that we could initially start talking about.
Yeah. So like it sucks, and it's unfortunate that this is the reality we live in. But like I said, not to be overly dramatic, but I hope that he gets everything that's coming to him within the constraints of the law. Otherwise, this is a very enjoyable Royal Rumble. It set the stage for the rest of like the next 20 years, or 23 years, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at just these two guys in the main event would go on to headline WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And they would both be champions. And first of 16 for John Cena. Both are guaranteed Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Both are massive movie stars.
They're cross. They crossed into other areas of pop culture. I mean, Batista as Drax is created a phenomenal character that people love. He's able to do other things in acting. John Cena, again.
John Cena is one of the most recognizable people anywhere.
Yes. So it was a very special Royal Rumble. People like to say that, Rumble 92 was like the greatest. And it was an excellent Royal Rumble. It was very star-studded, but there was no other Royal Rumble that I can think of that had like this cast of characters at this stage in their careers. Like, I mean, not even just Batista, but like Orton and Edge and all these guys. Ray was doing a year later.
Yeah, it was a launching point.
We didn't even talk about Chris Jericho.
Well,
Chris Jericho was in the Royal Rumble as well.
Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
I don't have enough.
I don't know where his wife was.
Spit my venom about him these days. But Chris Jericho as well. Like there's a lot of first ballot Hall of Fame professional wrestlers who, some were just in their stride, some were just starting to get into it. Look what Rey Mysterio was doing exactly a year later, winning the Rumble.
Yeah.
It's
you
amazing.
Were there.
I was there when he did that shit, and I did not bet on that. I should have. But yeah, it was a great Royal Rumble. Definitely my top 5 Rumbles ever. And I'm really glad that we had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, agreed. And when we were planning like what we were going to talk about, we knew it was Rumble season. So I was like, man, we should really do 2005 Rumble. And Jones was like, I was just going to say that. That's exactly the Rumble that we need to do.
It's not necessarily like a 20-year anniversary, but it's close enough.
Yeah, it's an important one.
Yeah, it was good. And just star-studded, literally beginning to end, star-studded. Except for like Heidenreich and... the fuck was that guy's name again? Snitsky.
Yeah.
But the question is, so we're season 3. We got the season premiere in the rear view mirror now. It's in the can. What are we doing next?
Well, pop quiz hotshot. Well, I mean, when you hear that, what do you think about? There's a bomb on the bus.
Speed. Speed. That's what that first thing went right over my head. I'm not even joking. I
thought you were doing a bit.
I thought you were doing a bit too. I'm like, he's gonna like turn around on this a little bit.
I don't know why I don't remember that. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I don't associate that at all with the movie.
Really? Yeah. That's to me.
That's what a lot of people. If you say pop quiz hot shot, that's what they think of. That's
100%.
Wow.
That's the catchphrase of Dennis Hopper.
You know what I associate with Speed is what do you do? That's what I associate with it.
That's the back end of that.
Yeah, it's the same
But
conversation.
you don't start with, well, what do? You got to start with the pop quiz hot shot.
Well, that's what I guess.
Wow.
So, anyways,
Wow.
this is the 30th,
Learn a
fucking
lot.
30th anniversary of the movie Speed, where Keanu Reeves really fucking took off as a blockbuster movie star. So, we're excited to review that on our next episode. We got a couple other ideas in the hopper, but we're excited to be back. We're excited to get back to, regular scheduled programming here, filling your ear holes with some sweet, sexy podcast content.
And whatever's going on with my rash.
Yeah.
We hope that clears up.
Oh, we all do.
We get to talk about Speed. We get to talk about what our next plans are. And I get to talk to you guys about the greatest cinematic universe ever created. The BBCU. Next week on Nothing Good.